Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 3, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝐀𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 on WhatIf. Now let's start. Izuku let the medical staff fuss over him and make sure he was unharmed. He was across from 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟, who was nervous about being around so many people. When they finished, they told both of them to rest until their results were in and someone came to check on them. A nurse brought some food for them, and after both had finished their meals, decided to get some rest. The staff made sure they got comfortable in their beds before leaving the room. As Izuku just finished getting comfortable in his bed, he saw 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 standing beside his bed, clutching her pillow to her chest, looking scared. "What's up, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟?" Izuku asked the young girl. "See, can I sleep in your bed? Mine is too big and lonely." She looked at him with big watery eyes and an adorable pout. Her tail was swinging slowly behind her as hugged the pillow just a bit tighter. Most dangerous weapon in the world, Izuku thought to himself before scooting over and patting the side of his bed. "Come on." He watched her face brighten up immediately and scrambled onto the bed, almost falling. But Izuku helped her up and she quickly burrowed into his side and pulled the blanket up to her chin. Izuku silently chuckled at her antics and lay down and wrapped arm around her before drifting off for some much-needed sleep. 𝗀𝐻𝐭 arrived at the hospital along with 𝗀𝗧𝗟𝗃, and recovery girl. As it was busy with activity, they had to wait for few minutes before a nurse was available to assist them. She moved towards the desk as a busy nurse attempted to hand her a clipboard, but 𝗀𝐻𝐭 stopped her. "I am looking for my son Izuku Midoryia." 𝗀𝐻𝐭 gave her a chance to start looking him up. He was brought in from the building explosion by an ambulance crew just a little bit ago. 𝗀𝐻𝐭 waited as patiently as possible. The nurse found the room and wrote it down before handing the piece of paper to her. "He is in room 335. The nurse stated politely. "Also, please give my regards to your son on his truly heroic save today." She gave 𝗀𝐻𝐭 a smile and bowed to her. 𝗀𝐻𝐭 returned her smile and returned the bow. "I will do that, thank you so much for your help." 𝗀𝐻𝐭 turned her group and led them to elevators to bring them up to the 3rd floor. 𝗀𝐻𝐭 had been antsy since she arrived, wanting to see her son. As the elevator reached the floor, she reached the nurse's station to ask the nurse which way to room. The nurse looked up the room and called over an older man nearby. "Hello, I am Dr. Takashi and I am your son's physician." Dr. Takashi gave her a professional smile. "I assume you are his mother?" 𝗀𝐻𝐭 nodded. "Yes, I am Izuku's mother." "Is he all right?" 𝗀𝐻𝐭 already heard from her daughters that he was exhausted after it was over, but she knew he had downplayed stuff before, so no one would worry about him. She knew that the hospital would do a battery of tests just to make sure he was all right. "Your son is doing fine. He is currently resting in his room from exhaustion." Dr. Takashi handed her his file. "Your son mentioned you were a nurse and would ask to see his file the moment you arrived. I made sure it was ready for you." 𝗀𝐻𝐭 couldn't help but chuckling at her son's antics of knowing her so well. "Thank you, doctor." She looked over the notes and saw that everything was normal and that exhaustion was noted by the medical staff, and during their last checkup he was resting comfortably. 𝗀𝐻𝐭 handed the file to recovery girl and allowed her to look over it before handing it back to the doctor. 𝗀𝐻𝐭 sighed with relief after hearing the doctor confirm that Izuku was indeed all right. "What about the girl that he rescued? How is she doing?" He had been curious as to who the girl was and how she got separated from her family. "She is doing fine as well. She is a little dehydrated and slightly underfed, but is doing fine now that we gave her some fluids and a hot meal for her." The doctor seemed to hesitate a moment before getting the girl's file. She doesn't remember her last name, only that her family is gone and her name is 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. Doctor handed the file to 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝗃 and 𝗂𝐻𝐻𝐻 read it over his shoulder. They had marked said signs of mistreatment and slight malnutrition, but other than that she was healthy. 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻 and 𝗂𝐻𝐻𝐻 shared a look when they saw the girl registered quirk was called illusions. It stated that she could create illusion with her hands of anything she could imagine or has seen for up to 3 hours. Both of them assumed that was how a bomb wasn't seen until Izuku had rescued the girl. They would have to talk with the two of the matter as a later date after then had been released from the hospital. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 handed the file to 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Midoryia and Recovery Girl. All three got angry as they read the girl's report. It listed her age as 7 years old and nothing was else personal beside the quirk registration information. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐬𝐵 sent the information to his friend on the police force and have him look for the girl's family. When 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had calmed down a bit, "Can you direct me to room 335 please? I would like to see my son." 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had noted that her room was marked that same as Izuku. The doctor gave her the directions and took the files back. When they reached the room, 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Midoryia went in as the other waited outside to direct the others inside when they arrived. When 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 saw the scene in front of her, it caused her to forget that she was upset with Izuku for worrying her so much. She watched as her son slept peacefully, that the small girl had curled into his chest and was clinging to his shirt as if it was her lifeline. Izuku's arm was wrapped around the small girl in a protective manner. 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 looked over to see Midoryia with a hand over her mouth to prevent her from squealing at the sight, with her phone in hand, taking several pictures. 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 took out her phone to do the same thing and noted she had a message on her phone. She opened it up to see it was from Izuku. He sent her a message before he left to help you. Any feeling of being upset she had was gone with that simple gesture that he thought of her before running off. She moved over to his side and gave him a kiss on his forehead and ran her fingers through his wild hair. Midoryia came over and did the same on his other side. 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 showed her the message he sent before leaving. Both of them sat down and waited for him to wake up. As Izuku rested, everyone started to arrive. Lady, Miruko, and Ryukyu arrived outside his door and were filled in by 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐵 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 as to what the doctor had said and what information they had received on the girl. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐵 was waiting to hear back from the local authorities on the girl and told them to go in to join 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Midoryia. They had a similar reaction to the sleeping duo and of course took blackmail photos for later use and went to sit down with 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. They were messaging back and forth to let him rest since he had earned it. The girls were the next to arrive a few hours later. Momo and Setsuna had changed out of their dress clothes and into something more comfortable thanks to Momo quirk. They picked up the other girls along the way and gave them a ride to the hospital. After finding their way to his room, they were surprised to see the UA principal and 2 staff members waiting outside his room talking. Recovery Girl gave them short version of the doctor's report for Izuku. They were relieved to know he was fine and just needed rest from the day's events before he would be released. They entered into the room quietly and Momo and Ochako nearly squealed at the adorable sight, both having a similar thought of how he would be like a father. Both blushed lightly at that line of thoughts and hoped that no one had noticed before both had snapped a quick photo of the adorable duo. May thought it was cute and tapped Deku Foxhead to take a few pictures she could print out later along with her rescue photo she had obtained. May had known the Izuku for several months. He was always nice to her and never got mad at her antics or when she would forget to eat or sleep for day. He would always make sure she was tucked into bed when she passed out from exhaustion and had food waiting for her when she woke up. He could see his kindness with the way he protected the girl. Kyoka had to admit it was cute at the scene before her and showed his kind nature. She knew someone going to take a picture and post it in the group chat at some point. Before she made it her background on her phone that only she would ever see. She made a mental note to make sure her mother never saw it or she would never hear the end of it. Worst case, if her mom saw it, would be that she would want to invite him over to meet her mom. Setsuna smiled at this and was ready to mess with him with this cavity-inducing sweetness in front of her. She would ask Momo for a copy later when she went home. She was proud of him for not only saving the little girl, but also comforting her. She knew there was more to the story, but that was for another time. She had to resist running her fingers through his hair in front of everyone, especially since his sister Rumi was really scary. It was almost another 2 hours before Izuku finally woke up. While he slept, a large conversation was going in the large chat group talking about his rescue of the small girl 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐵. Izuku started to stir from his well-earned nap. He was very groggy and wondered what was on his chest. As he started to shake the cobwebs out, remembered that 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐵 had cuddled up with him after looking too adorable to say no. He smiled and ran his fingers through his hair and watched as her tail started moving like a cat as she tried to burrow in deeper. Izuku could have sworn that she was starting to purr, but he was still waking up. He gave a yawn and rubbed his eyes and looked around the room. Izuku froze with fear at the sight before him. In his room he was surrounded by his mother, Nemuri, Rumi, Yu, Ryuko, Momo, Ochako, Mei, Setsuna, and Kyoka blocking any and all means of escape. They all had the same worried look on their faces, and he thought he was in deep trouble. Behind them Nizu, Shoyuta, and Recovery Girl were sitting against the wall, all drinking something and watching what was about to transpire. Izuku took a minute to try and alleviate the tension on the room, but all he could muster was, "Hey guys, nice to see you." Izuku leaned back slightly in the bed. "I'm really sorry for worrying everybody. I tried to get out quick after getting 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 out, but the teleporter was jammed and I had to find another way out." Izuku was starting to ramble. "I tried to call everyone after the explosion, but nobody could hear me." Izuku was starting to sweat. Inko let out a sigh before speaking. "Oh, we're not mad, Izuku," Inko said calmly. "When I heard from Nizu what happened and watched you on the news, I was really worried. I am proud of you saving those people and the little girl that is curled up with you. I nearly had a heart attack when the building exploded with you in it." Izuku couldn't help but flinch at that. "Needless to say, I was glad to see you were all right and save 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 from the explosion." Izuku bowed his head in shame at the thought that he made everyone worry about him that much. He didn't know that they couldn't hear him because of the explosion. He was so focused on saving 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 that he forgot about how his friends and family would feel if he had gotten hurt or worse. "Now we all saw that you were an amazing hero today. You helped keep a building from falling, you saved 16 people and saved even more lives taking that bomb into the air." Inko looked around the group too and they gave her a nod of agreement. "First off, I wanted to ground for that what happened, but now I have had some time to think I can't punish you for doing a good deed. We are all truly proud of you, son." Inko moved close and hugged him tight against her. "But I want you to try and promise all of us you won't do that again anytime soon, as scaring us like that again." "I will do my best to keep that promise, Mom." Izuku looked to see everyone start to smile. He let out a sigh of relief that she was still standing behind him to support his dreams. Inko adjusted on the bed enough to look him in the eyes. "Now until the start of UA, I want you to go be a kid while you can. I want you to go hang out with your friends, whether it is shopping, movies, or taking them into the command center to train with you, or letting them to access to the Zord piloting program. This will include group events and pair events until the start of UA. Also, if you are called away, you will message them before and after to let them know of your well-being. Also, I want you to get some extra training from Shoyuta and your sisters, but not every day or all day." Izuku thought over the request and agreed that he could do that. At least he wasn't grounded. He knew that Shoyuta, Rumi, and Ryuko were going to P&D him into the ground with training, but it would be for his benefit. He would get to help with the local charity events that were for a good cause, and it allowed him to make kids smile. "All right, I will accept your requests," Izuku said, getting comfortable in the bed. "I want to apologize for making everybody worry about me and scaring everyone so badly. I am truly sorry." Izuku bowed his head and waited for someone to speak. When no one spoke, he looked up to see they were giving him a smile. Inko moved to the edge of his bed. "I love you, and again I am beyond proud of you for saving those people." Inko hugged him again and kissed his forehead. "I want you to remember that we are all here for you. You are not alone in this anymore." Izuku nodded into his mother's shoulder and cried happy tears. He knew she had been behind him since the first day he showed her the Master Morpher. She had always encouraged him and made sure he knew it. Sometimes his old insecurities would creep back out and cause him to have some doubts about himself. Even with his sessions with Nemuri, he knew it would be a long time before he buried them for good. Izuku pulled back and gave everybody in the room a watery smile. "Thank you, everybody." Izuku was interrupted by the light groan coming from his left side. He looked down to see 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 starting to stir. She gave a big adorable yawn and opened her eyes to see a room full of people. She immediately eeped and tried to dig deeper into Izuku to hide from them. "It's okay, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘. These are my friends and family." Izuku gestured to the room. "You already met my sisters." They waved at the small girl. She gave them a shy wave back before hiding her face. Izuku was sure one of them were taking photos, but he didn't want to spook her by saying anything. Over the next 10 minutes he slowly introduced her to everyone in the room. As she got more comfortable eventually she didn't hide as much, but still remained skittish and close to Izuku. Ochako and Momo greeted her with bright smiles, and Momo even asked her if she wanted a stuffed animal to hold or play with. When 𝗏𝗡𝗠𝐾𝐿𝐼 said yes, Momo asked what kind she wanted. She seemed to hesitate for a moment and moved to whisper something in her ear that made Momo smile mischievously. Izuku couldn't hear it, but from the looks on Kyoka and Rumi's face it was something they thought it was hilarious. After a few moments of whispering, Momo smiled and left the room, stepping into the bathroom, and came out with a chibi version of Izuku with his green hair, eyes, and freckles. The stuffed doll wore his Mystic Force Red Ranger suit minus the helmet. Izuku flushed bright red when 𝗏𝗡𝗠𝐾𝐿𝐼 squealed with delight and took the stuffed doll and hugged it tight to her chest. She thanked Momo repeatedly before hugging the doll again with everything she had. Oh look, she wanted a stuffed version of her hero. Rumi teased as she moved forward and ruffled Izuku's hair. Izuku was both happy that she saw him as a hero and embarrassed that out of everything she asked for was a doll version of him. Oh Izuku, we need to get some more of these and start handing them out at public events to other kids. Izuku's eyes went wide in shock that she would actually suggesting to get someone to do that. But I'm not even a hero student yet. Who would want merchandise of me? Izuku looked as everyone in the room gave him a deadpan look and pointed to 𝗏𝗡𝗠𝐾𝐿𝐼, who was content at the moment playing with said doll. Izuku could tell she was beyond happy with it and wasn't about to change that anytime soon. Soon the adults were having a discussion about finding a way to get more of the dolls like the one Momo had created for 𝗏𝗡𝗠𝐾𝐿𝐼 and possible clothing to get made with his different suits and hand them out at children's hospital or other events that allowed for donations to different charity events. Izuku agreed that he would be willing to do that, and with permission from his mother and 𝗎𝐻𝑢 would show up as a ranger as well. 𝗎𝐿𝐼 sent a message to 𝗎𝐻𝑢 about this and how it could be accomplished. Momo had chimed in and gave 𝗎𝐿𝐼 her mother business card telling her she did a lot of charity work and would love getting behind something like that to help get it off the ground. While that was going on, 𝗏𝗡𝗠𝐾𝐿𝐼 got comfortable and started to come out of her shell more. She was currently being fawned over by Momo and Ochako. They were keeping her entertained as she animatedly retold her rescue to them. They gave the girls their full attention, and Momo made a few smaller items for the girl when she asked so she could keep telling her story. Mei had come over and after hesitating moment pulled him into a tight hug that nearly cracked his ribs. She held on tight until Izuku started to pat her back and she looked at him with teary eyes. I thought I lost my best friend. Mei hugged him tight again. I don't want to be alone, Zuzu. I am sorry, Mei. Izuku said. He ran his fingers through her hair and she seemed to tense up for a moment before relaxing. I am not going anywhere anytime soon. Izuku patted head. I still have to test your inventions, right? Izuku watched her brighten up at his words and gave him a big smile in return. She moved back and wiped her eyes before she drew back and slugged his right shoulder. Ow. That is what you get for making my cry. Mei said, crossing her arms and giving him a stern look. I let you off lightly. Mei was surprised a moment later when a pillow came flying and hit her in the face. She was stunned for a moment before looking to 𝗏𝗡𝗠𝐾𝐿𝐼, giving her an angry glare, and moved away from Momo and Ochako back to Izuku's side as if to protect him, still clutching her doll. Everyone in the room was stunned for a moment before every started to chuckle at the little girl's actions. Wow, Green Bean, you have known her one day and she is willing to protect you. You truly are one of kind. Kyoka laughed as she had moved closer to the bed, held out her hand for a fist bump from the young girl. She seemed confused until Izuku showed her how to do it. After watching it, she seemed to understand and gave Kyoka a fist bump. Most of the girls were trying to no squeal at the adorable sight in front of them. 𝗏𝗡𝗠𝐾𝐿𝐼 looked at all the girls and then looked back at Izuku with a curious face. Izuku, why are there so many pretty girls here to see you? That one question sent the group of teens into a blushing mess. The adults were trying and failing to suppress their amusement at this. Rumi and you were doubled over trying not to laugh. Nemuri was giggling as she watched her brother squirm at this. Ryuko bit her lip trying to suppress a laugh and wishing she had some popcorn for this show. 𝗎𝐿𝐼 had taken out her phone and sent a message to 𝗎𝐻𝑢. After he received it, they shared and he gave her a nod before stepping out of the room with a smirk on his face to make a few calls to get the process started. Izuku was a blushing and stuttering mess from her innocent question. It took him a couple of minutes for him to be able to speak. Well, these are my friends from the school and they just happen to really pretty appealing girls, each unique in their own ways. Izuku had said while blushing when he realized what he had said about the girls. He looked to see all of the girls blushing bright red. The adults were now laughed out loud at the kids' reactions. Ryuko thought this was better than live television any day. Yu and Nomuri were whispering back and forth about something. Rumi was on the ground trying not to bust a gut. Smooth there, Izuku. Real smooth. Setsuna said, giving his a tooth grin with her cheeks a bright red. If I didn't know any better, I'd say we're a professional flirt. She gave him a wink that made him even blush more. She'd been watching him interact with the small girl, and she liked how gentle he was with her. She watched how he treated her more like an older sibling or a parent. This got Setsuna thinking of a way to make her idea possible. Better to ask forgiveness than permission, right? She thought to herself. All right, everyone has had their fun, now let's him settle down and we can talk before visiting hours are over. Momo stated, trying to get the blush off her face at Izuku's sweet compliment. Momo had been complimented before, but she could tell by his sincerity that he meant it. After everyone had hugged him for being unharmed and lightly scolded him for scaring them with his near-death rescue, everyone fell back into comfortable conversation about Izuku and the girls going to UA, movies that were about to come out, and favorite heroes/heroines. Izuku talked with Mei and Deka about what caused the interference and was told they were looking into it. Shoyuta had to excuse himself, he had to be somewhere. When asked, he remained silent about it and patted on Izuku on the head and told him good job. Shoyuta left the room and sent a message say he was on his way and smiled at the message he received from his date. Maybe it is time for a change. He thought as headed to the restaurant. Before too long, the staff tells everyone that visiting hours had come to an end. As everyone said their goodbyes for the night, they stopped and gave him a hug and promised to see him soon. Inko stayed to talk to the doctor for a bit. He stated that both would be cleared to leave the hospital tomorrow after being observed for the night. Inko gave her son a kiss on the forehead, stating she would be back in the morning. Inko also gave Raphtalia a hug and kissed her forehead as well. The girl smiled big and hugged Inko back tightly at the gesture. After everyone had departed from the room, the staff brought food for Izuku and Raphtalia before the cafeteria closed for the night. After both of them had ate their meal and got cleaned up for the night, a nurse and helped Raphtalia with a shower and waited with her while he took one and got changed into something to clean. When he came back into the room, he noted that someone had brought him a few books for Raphtalia. After getting back into bed and get her settled into the bed beside him, Izuku reached out and grabbed the books and let her pick what to read. She chose 𝗏 book out of the stack and made herself comfortable as Izuku read her stories to help her get ready for bed. Izuku was almost done with the second book when he noticed she was sound asleep. Izuku put the books on the tray and quietly moved it away. He turned off his light near his bed and pulled the covers of both of them. Good night, Raphtalia, and sweet dreams, Izuku whispered as he shut his eyes and went to sleep. The next morning they awoke to the nursing staff giving them both a once-over before going to finalize their release paperwork. They were brought breakfast and ate while Izuku found some cartoons for Raphtalia to watch. After they finished eating, both of them watched TV until Inko arrived with a bag of clothes. Morning, Izuku dear. Morning, Raphtalia, Inko said, entering the room and taking the clothing out of the bag, allaying the clothing. Izuku grabbed his clothes and gave his mother a kiss on the cheek before heading to the bathroom to get dressed. As he finished getting dressed, he saw a hair tie on the counter. He looked in the mirror and noted that his hair had gotten long and was almost to his shoulders. He hadn't really made too much fuss with it and meant to go get it cut, but got sidetracked every time. He grabbed his hair and pulled it into a loose ponytail. His hair was still curled and wild, but at least it was out of his face for now. He came out of the bathroom to see that Raphtalia was in set of his old clothes that fit her. He recognized his old All Might hoodie and that it looked cute on her. When she gave him a big smile when she saw him come back into the room. Look, Izu. Miss Inko gave me some new clothes and this hoodie is really comfy, she exclaimed excitedly and started to bounce on her feet. Izuku chuckled and patted her head. I can see that and it looks really good on you, Raphtalia. I wore that when I was your age and now it is yours to keep. Izuku watched her eyes start to sparkle with joy. Really? She asked, her tail swinging wildly as she pulled the hoodie tight to her chest. Yes, really. Izuku said, kneeling down to her level. I think it fits you perfectly. Izuku gave the girl a hug and let her hug him as tightly as she could. It was nice of you to bring her some new clothes, Mom. Izuku said to his mother as he broke the hug and stood up. Well, there is reason for that, dear. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 said, pulling out some paperwork from her purse. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 and I had a long talk last night, and after we found out that 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 had no family that could take care of her, we filed the necessary paperwork and she will be staying with us for the foreseeable future, and if she wants to be adopted later, then I am willing to do so. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 stopped and looked at 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 with a shocked expression. You are taking me to live with you and Izuku? For real? She asked, looked back between the two of them. When 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 gave her a smile and nodded yes to her, the girls squealed with joy and hugged them both before cheering, I have a family. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 and Izuku couldn't help but smile at her excitement and her wonderful energy. After getting her to calm down a bit when the doctor came in to have 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 sign the release papers and walk them out of the hospital, the staff thanked Izuku for his rescue work from the day before and called him a wonderful hero. Izuku noted that as they got closer, a large black limo was sitting outside with the driver at the rear door. He noticed his mother was leading them all in that direction. Mom, what's going on? He asked, knowing of only one person that would have a car like that. Oh, I will explain when we get inside, dear. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 said, gesturing the waiting vehicle. Izuku did as he was instructed, and when the driver opened the door, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 jumped in and Izuku followed her inside. As he moved in to sit in the middle of the seat, he noticed that his sisters and the girls were also in the limo on the other benches. All of them were in casual clothes with comfy shoes and had a grin on their faces. Izuku realized too late that he was trapped when his mother got in and closed the door. What is going on? Izuku asked, knowing that he was trapped like a rat in a cage when he heard the doors lock on both sides of him. Well, after 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 and I discussed taking 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 into our home, I knew we would need to go shopping to get her what she needs. Clothing, a bed, sheets, toys, and so on. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 replied, giving her son a smirk. I messaged the girls and they needed to do some shopping as well, and we decided to make a day of it. Izuku knew that he had been set up and let out a defeated sigh. Let me guess, I am the pack mule for this day's shopping trip. Izuku remembered what that sheet had said. This is making you all worried yesterday, huh? Izuku watched all of them nod in agreement. Yep. Was their unanimous answers. I thought so. Izuku said as he felt the limo pull away from the hospital. Hours later, Izuku set the final bag down in the living room as what felt like an eternity of shopping with 10 women and 1 little girl. The first stop they made was for 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. They got her a variety of different clothes for her to try on, and each of the girls added their own taste on clothes since the little tanuki had no real preference. Momo found her a few fancy dresses that fit her perfectly. Mei found her some overalls and comfy t-shirts with gears on them. Setsuna found her dinosaur shirts and a similar backpack. Ochako got her some space-related clothing and pajamas with stars on them. Kyoka found her some clothes with music notes and a few sweatshirts and a swimsuit that was green with a gold music note on it. While the girls were helping with the clothing, 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 was ordering her furniture for her room at the apartment that would be delivered in a few days. They had a spare room what was mostly used for storage, but this was a better use for it. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽 let 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 choose her sheets and blankets, and she picked soft green sheets and a big red comforter. They teased Izuku on the color scheme since they were 90% sure it was from his hair and his ranger suit. Nemuri went and grabbed a couple stack of children's books for her to read or to color in with a box of crayons. Nemuri made sure there was a variety of each and even grabbed a few different activity kits for her to play with. She watched the girls smile brightly at the bags and thanked her with a big hug. Yu and Ryuko went to the nearby hero store and got her several hoodies of 𝗀𝗡𝐿𝐴. Ryukyu, Miruko. Sadly, they did not get her a midnight hoodie for obvious reasons, and Nemuri understood. They also took her to get several pairs of shoes for several occasions. She had insisted on a pair of red sneakers, which Izuku was teased for once again. After they got all the basics and a few extras, Izuku carried the large load out to the waiting limo and returned to find them preparing to start all over again. Their next stop was to a toy store, and that resulted in 8 bags for 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. Izuku made his second trip and placed them in the vehicle and found them in the food court for lunch. After a small break for lunch, the girl went shopping next along with his mother and sisters. This resulted in them trying on different clothes and asking Izuku for his opinion. Needless to say, Izuku was blushing for most of this. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 kept him company and chatted with him in between changes. After they had gotten what they wanted from the clothing store, and he thought he was home free after taking a pen and marking everyone bags out the limo for his third trip. When he returned, his mother stated that he needed a new wardrobe and was dragged to get new clothing, and pun shirt were unanimously banned by all. Even 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 frowned at the puns and said, "No, not allowed." Izuku bows his head in defeat as he is turned into a living mannequin. When it is all over and he takes his new clothing out for his 4th trip out the limo and see the driver give his a pat on the shoulder for his pain. After everyone is happy with their purchases and see that it is getting late in the day, they go out to get some dinner before going their separate ways. Everyone made plans for his time for his punishment, and Izuku wrote everything down on a piece of paper to make sure he remembered when he need to be. When he finally unloaded everything from the car and put his bags in his room, he came back to find 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 holding a sweatshirt he assumed was made by Momo. It was a dark green hoodie that looked like the Green Ranger's suit printed on it. She pulled it on, and Izuku took some photos and sent it to the group chat. As soon as the photo hit the chat, Iz exploded on her cuteness and demanded more photos. As Izuku and his mother got everything put away from the store and made sure 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 was bathed and changed for bed. Her bed was still on order and she would bunk with Izuku for a few nights. Izuku got in bed and after she got comfortable had her choose a few books to read to her. Like the night before, she fell asleep before he had finished reading the second book she had chosen. Izuku placed it on his nightstand and gentle moved to get comfortable and fell asleep shortly after his head hit the pillow. 𝗏𝐻𝐭 made her last check for the night and made sure the door was locked and turned out the lights as she made her way to her bedroom. She stopped in to check on Izuku and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗧 and smiled at them sleeping peacefully. She made sure to get a photo and closed his bedroom door. She let out a sigh and went to bed thinking that she raised her son to be fine young man. The next morning was filled with Izuku doing chores as his mother played with 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗏 as the living room. Izuku did his chores without complaint and even ran to the store for his mother when she realized she needed a few things for dinner. He took 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗏 to the park to let her run around and even chased her a little, much to her delight. He had messaged his friends throughout the day and let them know what he was up to. They seemed happy for the pictures he sent and sent a few selfies with 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗏 with her bright smile. Izuku went home as it was getting close to dinner time, and when he reached the kitchen his mother was waiting with a letter for him. "Izuku, your letter came." 𝗏𝐻𝐭 exclaimed brightly as wanting to know his score and if he had been accepted. She was sure he was, but she wanted to see the official paperwork. She handed it to him and he placed it on the table. Izuku took a deep breath and opened the letter from the side. A small metal disc fell into his palm, which he placed on the table. He looked at his mother and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗏 before pressing the button to turn it on. A hologram flickered to life as an image of 𝗎𝐻𝗎 in his usual attire stood there to greet him. "Hello, Izuku. I have to say I am quite proud of you, my student, for all of your hard work and dedication you have shown. I wanted to tell you in person, but I didn't want you to feel like I was playing favorites." 𝗎𝐻𝗎 gave a small chuckle. "Anyway, let's get down to business. You scored a near-perfect score on the written exam and only missed a question that I put in myself, and you only missed it by a small error, but I had to make it wrong. I have to say you were impressive at the physical portion of the exam with a total of 80 villain points." Izuku cheered at this as it was more than enough for him to get into UA on that and his exam score. 𝗏𝐻𝐭 and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗏 cheered along with him. He was about to say something, but 𝗎𝐻𝗎 spoke again. "Now, as UA is a hero school, we also have rescue points. A panel of judges watches and they award points for heroic acts beyond just fighting villains. You showed that as spades as you saved many applicants before the 0-pointer arrived." 𝗎𝐻𝗎 vanished and images of him saving other students as the Quantum Ranger. Izuku heard a gasp as looked to see 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗏 watch him taken down the villain bots and save the others. Izuku scooped her up and held her up so she could get a closer look at it. She pointed out Ochako as he rescued her and carried her to safety. Then she watched as he summoned the Zords. Your score took the longest to count up since you did so much good to your fellow applicants. You received a total of 80 rescue points. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 smiled brightly to his student. Welcome Izuku to You Hero Academia. The hologram disappeared with a screenshot of the leaderboard from the exams. Izuku's eyes went straight to the top of the list. Izuku Midoryia, 80 villain points. Rescue points 80 total 160 points, first place. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, 77 villain points. 0 rescue points. Total 77 points, second place. Ijiro Kirishima, 39 villain points. 35 rescue points. Total 74 points, third place. Ochako Uraraka, 40 villain points. 30 rescue points. Total 70 points, 4 RD place. Ibara Shiozaki, villain points. Rescue points 32 points. Total 68 points. 5th place. Itsuka Kendo, villain points. Rescue points 40 points. Total 65 points. 6th place. Tenya Ida, villain points. Rescue points 9 points. Total 61 points. 7th place. Tetsu, villain points. Rescue points. Total 59 points. 8th place. Fumikage Tokoyami, villain points. Rescue points 10 points. Total 57 points. 9th place. Yoshida Ways, villain points. Rescue points 6 points. Total 56 points. 10th place. Izuku smiled at his name at the top of the leaderboard. He knew that his former friend would be losing his mind when he saw the results. Izuku turned to see his mother and 𝗏𝗡𝗠 cheering with all their might and pulling him into a hug. After a small hug pile and a cry session with a proud 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, they decided to celebrate as a family, and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 went to making a special dinner. As Izuku played with the little tanuki, he heard his phone chime. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and saw that his friends had posted their results. Gravity Girl Ochako, I got 4th place. Congrats on 1st place Izuku. Rock Goddess Kyoka, yeah, congrats guys. I got 12th place. Rock Goddess Kyoka, way to break the record. Green Bean, Green Bunny Izuku, thanks guys. I am glad we all made it. Forge Momo, congratulations my friends, I am happy to see you guys do so well. Dino Girl Setsuna, congrat guys, we need to have another beach day. Tech Girl May, yeah, I have friends at UA. I can't wait to make babies for you guys to use at school. Forge Momo, okay, I will say this now. If anyone makes May cry, I will end them. Gravity Girl Ochako, same, but send them to the sun. Rock Goddess Kyoka, same. Dino Girl Setsuna, same. Green Bunny Izuku, same. No one messes with my friends. Tech Girl May, you guys make me so happy. Gravity Girl Ochako, May. Before I forget, I got class 1A. Forge Momo, I got 1A as well. May, you are a national treasure. Rock Goddess Kyoka, I also got 1A. Can we keep the streak going? Also, I agree with Momo. Tech Girl May, I am class 1H. For support class. Wish I was in the same class but different track. Also thank you both. Dino Girl Setsuna, sadly I am 1B. Hopefully Izuku is with me so I won't be alone. Also May, I am going to hug the stuffings out of you when I see you. Green Bunny Izuku. Green Bunny Izuku. Mine says see 𝐻𝐻𝐿 for classroom assignment. Green Bunny Izuku, image. JPEG. Tech Girl May, what? Gravity Girl Ochako, what the sprinkles? Forge Momo, what? Rock Goddess Kyoka, what the hell? Dino Girl Setsuna, what the F? Katsuki Bakugo was in a foul mood. He had shown those pathetic extras that he was the best and wrecked everything in his path. He was on his way to the top and nothing was going to stop him. He saw those giant robots show up and have a massive showdown. He didn't know what kind of quirk was behind it, but he was going to show how pathetic they were for needed them. He finally got his letter from UA. He knew he was going to be number 1. He was greeted by Present Mike and he was annoyed with how long it was taking to show the scores. When they finally showed the scores, he nearly had a slide. Deku! Katsuki screamed with all of his might. The next few weeks flew by as Izuku was kept pretty busy. He normally had 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐴 with him when his mother had to work. He was either visiting one of his sister's agencies or when he meet his friends for some kind of fun day. At least one of the 2 days he was at an agency, they did a public event and people came out to support the pro heroine and Izuku. 𝐻𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 had contacted Momo's mother Mona Yaoyorozu, who was big in the charity and public event circles. After finding a manufacturer that could do the all work they had in mind for the apparel and it was going to be made with good quality materials, they went to work on getting them into production. Izuku came in with his mother, Raphtalia and Momo and morphed into his Green Ranger, Quantum Ranger, and Red Mystic Ranger forms so they could get pictures of all of them, and with Momo making a few basic prototypes helped to speed the design process up. After the first week they went into production, and his second week was mostly public events where they raised money for the local children's hospitals and other important local charities. The sweatshirts sold well and his stuffed dolls were very popular that they were highly collectible. It was later decided that the Yaoyorozu Cooperation would have the rights to his current and future Ranger forms that would be made into apparel, dolls, toys, etc. Izuku received one of each sweatshirt for himself along with some for his friends and family. Raphtalia was overjoyed at this and took all 3 of her dolls to bed or with her everywhere she went to show them off. She also wore the Red Mystic Ranger hoodie every chance and had even started wearing it to bed. Mona sat down with Izuku and Inko to go over some other items they were thinking about releasing later in the year and some around the sports festival. Izuku agreed with her plans and made a special request for a few of the items. He asked that he keep this private as he wanted it to be a surprise. After he finished his time at his sister agencies, he made time to hang out with his friends. He went to the beach with them and with the tanuki in tow. She had never been to the beach and was a ball of energy when her feet touched the sand. Everyone had a good time and relaxed as the weather was nice, and they had packed a lunch and listened to music picked out by Kyoka. Setsuna teased Izuku about not wanting to put sunscreen on her and the girls, but stopped when Raphtalia tossed a small shell at her head and missed by a wide margin. Izuku scolded her on not doing that again. Setsuna apologized and the young girl seemed to forgive her, but was wary of Setsuna for a bit. Ochako helped him teach Raphtalia how to swim, and it took a bit of time, but she seemed to get the hang of it by the end of the day. Overall, everyone seemed to have a fun day together. Another day they hung out as group was at the command center, and Izuku loaded up the pilot trainings and let them have a turn using it. Raphtalia was amazed at this, and Izuku gave her a tour of the base as Setsuna was using the Dragonzord program much to her delight. For the most part they all did very well on their first attempts and did better with additional tries. Ochako did amazing at the Astro Megaship program and even scored better than he did on her first attempt at the program. After everyone had their fun in the simulator, they went for a walk towards the Zord Bay where everyone had a great time. When it came down to individual events, it was a new experience for him to go out and try new things. Inko took Raphtalia with her to work on those days to let him have fun without having to watch her all the time. This was when the girls learned something important about their green-haired friend. He was an accidental flirt. Setsuna had wanted to go to a museum with dinosaur exhibits, and they had a special screening of Jurassic Park where she cuddled up beside him, leaving him blushing mess. Izuku had fun since he had never seen the movie and never had anyone to go to the museum with except him mom. Izuku had a fun time and learned a lot about dinosaurs, and it was nice to see Setsuna as excited about them as he was about quirks. He got used to her flirting with him to get him all flustered, and when he accidentally called her the dinosaur queen, that left her a blushing mess for a while. Izuku waited with her until her ride came to take her home. He gave her a hug, thanked her for the amazing day, and she hesitated for a moment before giving him a kiss on the cheek and hurried into the car. Izuku was paralyzed at this, and after his brain finally rebooted, he went home trying to figure what just happened. Ochako wanted to go to a planetarium that was hosting a new show. Ochako was a huge space nerd and walked him through basics of stargazing and constellations. Izuku was amazed at her knowledge and listened to her with his full attention. During the show she had sat close to him and helped him find the stars the host was taking about. It was nice and Izuku had a great time. He ended up calling her the Space Queen with all of her knowledge. Ochako had to stop herself from floating away at his innocent comment. Izuku walked her home after they had a quick meal at Ochako's request. He thanked her and wanted to go back again someday. Ochako was blushing heavily and mustered up her courage and gave him a peck on the cheek before heading inside her apartment. Izuku was a bit more prepared to handle this from his last outing, but was still confused on the act of why she did it. Mei had wanted nothing more than to have his help with designing new equipment for him. He helped her with some design issues she was having and was giving her feedback she could use to make improvements after trying out a few new inventions. He brought her a homemade meal and made her take breaks to eat and to chat so she didn't get burned out. She showed him a few projects that she had made with Deku and wanted to show them off. One was updated communicator that had a screen like a modern smartwatch. She swapped out his current communicator one for the new one, and Izuku was impressed with the improvements and told her just that. When she showed him what she had made for his hero costume and support gear, he called her his gadget queen. Mei wasn't sure what to do with that except blush and start working on something else to make sure he couldn't see her face. Then she turned around quickly to kiss him on his cheek and spun right back to work on her current project. Izuku made a note to call Nomiuri for advice when she was available. Mei was coordinating with Deku to upgrade and improve the teleporter system to work even with interference and be able to teleport someone out in a life or death situation. It was currently a work in progress, and Mei hoped to have it completed before the official start of UA. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 got tickets to her favorite band Deep Dope and offered the other ticket to Izuku to go with her. When he told her he didn't know their music, she dragged him to her place and introduced him to her music selection. Her mother thought it was hilarious and adorable at them listening to music together. Her dad, on the other, had to be dragged out of the room a few times. Izuku was introduced to a variety of music he had never heard of and asked for some more music to listen to later. When the day on the concert arrived, 𝐀𝐭𝐡𝐴's mother chaperoned their trip and they had a blast. Izuku enjoyed every minute of it and couldn't help but smile. As they were leaving, the band's manager saw Izuku and recognized him from the TV. He asked Izuku to come meet the band. Izuku accepted and was handed VIP passes for the three of them. 𝐀𝐭𝐡𝐴 was on cloud 9 meeting her favorite band backstage. She dragged Izuku over to meet them and became a total fangirl as she got their autographs and a group photo of her with the band. Izuku thanked the band for letting them back here to see them, and they got a few photos with him for their fan page. Izuku handed them a business card for Mona Yaoyorozu and told them to call her if they were interested in doing a few charity event. Their manager took the card, stating they would defiantly give her a call. After hanging out with them for a bit, it was time for them to go home. 𝐀𝐭𝐡𝐴 was beyond excited about the day and thanked him for going with her. Izuku waved it off, telling her it was his pleasure to hang out the Queen of Rock. This sent her into a blushing mess and took a bit to settle down. When they arrived to drop him off, she told him that he did not see her having a fangirl moment earlier today and let her jacks act like snakes to get her point across. Izuku promised that he would take that secret to his grave. 𝐀𝐭𝐴 gave him a hug and, like the others, gave him a peck on the cheek before dashing inside the car. Izuku sent another message to Nomiuri asking when she was available for a much-needed chat. Momo had been looking forward to a nice, simple day. She had made plans to meet a cafe that would allow them to talk about quirk analysis and even had a few spare notebooks for them to use. Izuku had the same thought, and they spent part of the afternoon deep in discussion and comparing notes on different quirks that had seen or read about. Izuku had made her question a few things about her own quirk, and she made notes to try later when she had some free time. Before they knew it was time to eat, and they put their notes away and talked about different things. Momo admitted that she loved to read and would spend hours reading to pass the time. Izuku gave her a list of books she may enjoy and could talk about them later after she had a chance to read them. As the evening came to an end, they paid the bill at the cafe and went on a walk through the park to stretch their legs and kill some time before her ride came to take her home. As the evening cooled, Momo had realized she hadn't brought a jacket with her. Before she could make one, Izuku took off his own jacket and gave it to her. She blushed at the kind gesture and took it and put it on to warm up. As they reached the entrance to the park where they had started, her ride had just pulled up. Momo thought she would be witty and took on a faux rich girl accent. "Thank you for escorting me to my carriage home, my kind ranger." She gave his a courtesy and giggles like a woman from one of her romance novels she hid under her bed from her parents. Izuku laughed and then took on a similar accent. "It was my pleasure, my lady, to spend the day with the Queen of Creation." He gave her a full bow. Izuku didn't see her turn bright crimson at his words and had to calm herself or risk fainting in front of him. She waited for him to stand up and pulled him into a tight hug. He returned the hug and she kissed his forehead before dashing to her ride as soon as it arrived. Izuku walked home with a smile and pulled out his phone to call Nomiuri. Turned out his sister was free the next day. Also, he realized that he didn't get his jacket back. The next day, Izuku went to her office at UA after his training session with 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐬 and watched as she was working on a stack of papers. She waved him in and told him to get comfortable. Nomuri stopped and sat across from him. Nomuri had an idea of what was going on, but asked him to tell her what he wanted to know. Izuku told of each outing with his friends and how at the end of each one they kissed him on the cheek or head in Momo's case. Nomuri was squealing with delight from his stories and teased him about really being a true Casanova. When he asked what to do about since he didn't want to hurt anyone feeling or ruin his new friendships. It took him 10 years before he got any real friends and wanted to keep them his friends for a very long time if possible. He admitted that he wasn't afraid of being alone again. Izuku hugged his knees to his chest. Nomuri suggested to let it play out and see what happens since he was only known them some of them for a short time and see what the future brings of it. Izuku agreed with that and wanted to enjoy his little remaining free time with his friends before school starts. While this was going on, Nomuri had sent a message to her private chat group of which girl her brother was going to end up with. Almost immediately the bets were rolling in. He talked with her in their normal therapy session and after getting some of the things off his chest, Nomuri let him vent and talked with him on how he felt. He stopped for a minute and told her a story after he made her promise to never tell anyone else. He told her that when he was younger a girl he had feelings for acted friendly to him and made it seem they were dating, but after a week she humiliated him in front of everyone calling him a quirkless freak nobody would love. After that he was always guarded when it came to girls getting close to him. He admitted again that he was afraid of getting his heart broken again. Nomuri pulled him into a big sisterly hug and told him to not let one girl turn him away from matters of the heart. He would find someone to open up his heart to and maybe it would happen sooner than he thought. She made sure he knew he was loved by his mother, his sisters, his friends, and especially 𝗲𝗡𝗡. Izuku thanked her and stay in the hug for a while. They were talking about getting something special for 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 for Christmas as a group when 𝐻𝐿𝐿 sent them a message requesting him to come to his office with Nomuri. Both looked at each other and shrugged before heading to see what 𝐻𝐿𝐿 wanted. As Izuku walked into the office he saw his mother and recovery girl standing near the desk. "Hey everyone, what is going on?" Izuku could tell they were having a serious conversation before he got there. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 shared a look before she nodded to 𝐻𝐿𝐿 to speak. "Well Izuku, I have received a request for your support of another rescue operation and your mother and I were discussing the possibility of approving it." Izuku stiffened in surprise. "What is the rescue operation?" he asked, curious about them letting him go out again so soon after last time. He was not about to look a possible gift horse in the mouth. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 turned on his TV to show a forest being devastated by a wildland fires and the water being used to extinguish it was causing mudslides lower on the mountain area and people were being trapped as the roads were being covered in mud and debris. It started a few days ago and the team on site is being overwhelmed and in need support to battle the fires and clear the roads for more help to arrive. Izuku understood immediately. "I can get to the site easily and then not only provide aid to battle the fires, but with my Zords they can evacuate people and clear the roads for emergency services to arrive right." Izuku was already working on the solution in his head of what Zords he would need to get the job done. "I take they saw my Zords and called you." "Correct on both counts Izuku," 𝐻𝐿𝐿 said proudly. "I have discussed it with your mother and has decided she will accompany you along with Recovery Girl to take as many supplies as possible until the roads can be clear enough to relieve you and the hero team on location." 𝐻𝐿𝐿 leaned back in his chair. "The team in question is the rescue team the Wild Pussycats and for them to need more help is something." 𝐻𝐿𝐿 looked at Nomuri with a sad expression. "Unfortunately for you Nomuri, you will have to remain here as we go over the final roster and scheduled for the upcoming semester." "I understand," Nomuri said sadly. She moved over to hug Izuku. "Please be safe." She ruffled his hair affectionately. "I will, I promise." Izuku replied before breaking the hug and turning back to 𝐻𝐿𝐿. Izuku gave his mentor a smile. "If my mom is good with it then I will start making preparations for it." Izuku reached over and tapped him communicator. "Deku standby for rescue operation. Start of the Astro Megaship and have it set a course for UA practice field to pick up personnel and supplies." Izuku knew that it was the best way at the moment to get to their destination and start getting to working. Affirmative ETA on Astro Megaship arrival 45 minutes. I also have prepared the Zord teleporter for you needs upon arrival. Copy. Thank you Deku. See when you get here. Izuku looked back to his mother and recovery girl. Are the supplies ready to be loaded? Izuku had his notebook out taking notes for later and working out his plans. We were preparing to send them when a truck became available, but we will have them ready to get loaded up so we can get underway as quick as possible. Recovery girl replied, nodding her head in approval. I will make sure my bag has what it needs. Izuku looked over at his mother and gave her a smile. I'm glad you okay with me doing this. Izuku moved close and gave her a hug. I promise I won't let you down. Inko returned the hug and played with his ponytail. I know you will do great things, son, but that won't stop me from worrying about you. Inko moved back and looked her son in the eyes. You are a hero and I will support you like always, even if you scare me again. Thanks, Mom. Izuku said, giving her a million-watt smile. I need to let my friends know what's going on and get my stuff packed up. What about 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘? Izuku asked, wonder who would watch her while this was going on. Well, she will have to come with us. Inko replied, no one is available to watch her and I have already asked everyone I know before you got here. Izuku thought for a moment. Well, the megaship has rooms and places for her to be with us, but not in the way and has a camera system to find her if the need arises. Izuku said, thinking over its decks and systems. Not to mention she would be able to keep the other children entertained if needed. Izuku gave her a wave and went to get his go bag from his locker that 𝗏𝗏𝗏 insisted that he had packed to go at a moment's notice. He then sent his friends a message that he was going out on another rescue operation and would be back when he could. He sent a similar message to his sisters as well and then to 𝗏𝗏𝗏 that he would be away until start of class possibly. Once Izuku had finished with his messages, he went to work planning on what Zords would be needed. As he neared the practice field waiting for the megaship to arrive with his bag slung over his shoulder, he saw several pallets of supplies with UA robots standing by to load them onto the ship when it started to land. He looked up to see that a peeling ship started landing process. He felt the downdraft as the ship slowed and gently touched the ground. He watched as the bay door lowered and walked over and directed the bots where to start loading the supplies. He was reading over the inventory lists when heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see his mother with her bag holding 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 hand with her little red backpack over her shoulders. Recovery girl had her supplies and a small luggage with wheels to make it easier to pull. He was surprised to you in her hero costume with a travel bag along with his friends with luggage in hand as well. Hey guys, what are you all doing here? You raised an eyebrow at him and pointed to the ship. I owe you one for the save at the tower and I volunteered to help out. Also, when I heard you were flying a spaceship to them, I made sure I got here as quick as possible. You gave him a smirk about pointed to his friends. I met all of them outside the gates rushing to get here just to see you, little brother. She gave him a wink as she moved over to talk with Inko. Are you guys here to see us off? Izuku asked, surprised to see his friends here on campus rather be at home with their families before the start of the semester. Kyoka walked over and gently slugged his shoulder. When you said you were going out again on another rescue operation, we all decided to tag along this time to keep you out of trouble. Kyoka gave him a smirk. Besides, we decided it would be good to see heroes in action before school officially starts. Mei, Ochako and Setsuna nodded in agreement. Momo nodded. My mother called and got us similar temporary license as you for this rescue only. Momo readjusted her strap on her backpack. We wanted to make sure to help where we could and to keep you out of any kind of trouble. Momo gave him a mock stern look before letting it fall. Izuku nodded and gave them all a smile. Well, let's get everything loaded up and get everything else sorted so we can get underway soon. Izuku led the way into the ship. After getting room assignments figured out with some of them doubling up in rooms and after the last of the supplies had been loaded on board, Izuku led everyone to the bridge. Everyone was in awe of the ship as they walked onto the bridge. Izuku had been looking over the last of the pre-flight checks and looked over at Ochako, resisting the urge to touch the pilot controls and panels on the bridge. He remembered looking up everybody's piloting scores and she had done incredibly well piloting the megaship. Izuku got an idea and decided to run with it. Ochako, Since you passed the flight training for the megaship, how about you lift us off the ground and I'll have Deku set course for the Pussycat's base of operations? Izuku said, pretending to look over the checklist again as he watched her out of the corner of his eye stiffen and give him a wide-eyed look. What? 𝐻𝐿𝐿 exclaimed in surprise. You want me to fly us there? 𝐻𝐿𝐿 wasn't sure she heard him right. Sure, she did well in the training, but she had never touched the real controls. She wasn't sure why he would trust her with the controls this soon. You did better than I did, and Deku will be your assistant if you need help. Izuku went over and started to type in a few commands as it made sure everything was locked up tight and ready to go. The ship is all yours, 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴. He gave her a wink and moved to the support panel nearby. She flushed at being called that and let out a deep breath before her hands flew over the controls like an experienced pro as lights went green on the panel and powered up the engines. Everyone stand by for takeoff. 3, 2, lift off. As she adjusted the control to lift the ship gently into the air and followed the digital guidelines Deku had put on the bridge screen in front of her, 𝐻𝐿𝐿 was smiling ear to ear at flying an actual spaceship, as they reached cruising altitude and sent the ship moving forward at a steady speed. Course laid in and adjusting to cruising speed to destination. After cruising for a few minutes, she hit the autopilot and turned to see everyone's stunned faces. I guess I got a little too into it. 𝐻𝐿𝐿, that was amazing. May said, moving over to her friend. You looked so natural with flying it, and it was smooth takeoff, and I want you to teach me. May was almost bouncing with excitement at that possibility. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 laughed. Well, maybe after some more time in the trainer first. She ran her fingers over the edge of the panel and thought this was the best day ever. Deku to our arrival at destination. Izuku asked, setting down the checklist and placing his phone back into his pocket after taking a secret photo of her piloting the ship with her smile. He was glad to make her happy with her piloting. Izuku dug out a box 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 links for everyone to be able to reach him or each other while they were on location if needed. ETA is 2 hours at current speed. With slight engine adjustment, ETA could be within the hour. Deku stated on the ship intercom system. Copy that, Deku. Izuku said before looking at 𝐻𝐿𝐿. Can you adjust the speed with Deku to get us there sooner? Izuku gestured to the flight controls with his hand. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 grinned. I am on, Captain. She teased as she adjusted the controls to speed the trip up. After it was done, she watched the ETA display change to 1 hour. It's done. Izuku nodded at this. Okay, I can give you all a better tour of the ship before we arrive and let everyone relax a bit. Everyone seemed in agreement and gave them a tour of each deck of the ship. After showing Recovery Girl the med bay and May the engineering room that would have supplies to fix things as needed, it was time for a quick lunch. Afterwards, everyone got comfortable as the meeting room and talked comfortable until Deku called them sometime later that they were nearing their destination. Izuku once again handed control off the ship to 𝐻𝐿𝐿 again and waited for the ship to land. 𝐿𝐿𝐴 was tired from trying to keep everything running until help arrived. After seeing how bad of shape the area was in, she called Nizu for help and was told help would be here in a few hours. She wasn't one to look a gift horse in the mouth. She was the keeping in team updated using her quirk telepath and organizing local efforts to deal with the injured and sick. She was taking a drink of water when she heard a rumbling sound coming from the air. She nearly choked on her water as she saw a giant blue spaceship start to land on a large open area they had cleared away. Guys, come back to my location if you can. I believe our help has just arrived in a spaceship. 𝐿𝐴 sent out to her team. She waited for the engines to turn off before walking towards the ship. Well, this was not what she was expecting to see today. Izuku followed behind Recovery Girl and Yu as they departed the ship. The ramp had extended as people came to help unload and to look at the megaship. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 directed the group of volunteers to the supplies and began the offloading. 𝐻𝐿𝐿, Momo, Setsuna, and Kyoka helped carry out supplies. May had her toolbox asking if there was anything needing repaired and was directed by a volunteer to a couple of power generators that had stopped working the day before. Izuku watched as 𝐿𝐴 approached the group, suching her attention from ship to them. Welcome to our base of operations, she said, returning her attention to the group. I am 𝐿𝐴 and I have been running things here while the team is out in the field at the moment. I am so glad to have some support arrive. It is a pleasure, dear. Now directed me to the medical tent and I will get to work. Izuku here will call whatever equipment you need and 𝐴𝐻 will assist in any way possible. Recovery girl said politely as she rested with her cane. It's over there where our volunteers are taking supplies. 𝐴𝐻 replied, pointing to a larger tent near the generators May was working on. Thank you, dear. I see you two later. RG said before walking off towards the tent to start treating her new patients. Hello, my name is Izuku Midoryia. Izuku said as calmly as possible to the heroine. If you can show me where you need my 𝐬𝗱s, then I can get them set up and running as soon as possible. 𝐴𝐻 gave him a nod. Follow me. They followed her to small tent that had maps of the area and where the current fire was located and where certain roads needed to be clear for addition help and supplies could come into the area. After a small planning session, Izuku went to work. He summoned in the Lightspeed Rescue 𝐬𝗱s and put them to work. Pyro 1, Hydro 2, and Arrow 3 went to work on the forest fires when Hazmat 4 went to work clearing the roads. Med Rescue 5 was parked near the megaship standing by in case of a mass evacuation since it could hold a lot of people and equipment if needed. Next, Izuku summoned in 3 Turbo Rescue 𝐬𝗱s, the Lightning Fire Tamer, Thunder Loader, and Star Racer Rescue 𝐬𝗱s. He sent the Fire Tamer to assist in handling the wildfires and sent the Thunder Loader and Star Racer to assist in clearing the roads. Lastly, he summoned in 2 𝐬𝗱s from the Overdrive Megazord. He summoned in the Red Dump Diver and the Yellow Dozer Diver and sent the both to work on clearing the roads. That gave them 5 𝐬𝗱s working on the roads and 4 𝐬𝗱s battled the fires and 1 on standby with the megaship in case they had to make a quick retreat. Izuku let out a tired sigh as he reached his maximum of 𝐬𝗱s for the day. Technically he should count the megaship, but it was flown out and running on its own power in ship mode. If he changed it to Megazord mode, then he would need to be more concerned. After putting the 𝐬𝗱s to work and getting assigned a search area with 𝐴𝐻, they went to work. Izuku morphed in Lightspeed Red Ranger and running search mode in his helmet. 𝐴𝐻 grew to her full size and set him on her shoulder to help her find people. Most of the area had been evacuated before their arrival. The few stragglers they found were carried back by 𝐴𝐻 while Izuku checked them for injuries on the way back to base for them to be checked out by Recovery Girl or his mother and given food and water. They continued to work until the sun was starting to go down and received a telepathic message from 𝐴𝐻 to come back for the night. When they arrived back with the last of their rescues and handed them off to be looked over, they were both starving. After 𝐴𝐻 returned to normal size and Izuku powered down, both were tired and hungry. They were both greeted by 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Raphtalia holding trays of food for them. Izuku ate his food as he listened to the young girl talk about her day as she helped 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and getting to play with a few children that were here. Izuku gave her a smile and patted her in the head with made her purr with happiness. The girls came over a bit later, all tired, but in good spirits as they had helped out a lot today. Ochako was able to help move heavy equipment around with her quirk and was proud of herself for not getting sick from overusing it. Setsuna was able to help grab items needed with her quirk to help 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 when she asked or when she was entertained the children with magic tricks of separating and reattaching her hand or fingers much to their delight and excitement. Kyoko was able to keep the kids entertained with sing-alongs and toys from the replicator after Deku instructed her how to use it. She had them in good spirits and even had Raphtalia help her in a few of the games much to younger girls' delight. May had been able to fix the power generators rather quickly after having to give them a bit of maintenance and having Deku make a few replacement parts that she needed. She had gladly bragged that nothing blew up after fixing it. She had tinkered with a few things, but kept that to a minimum until she was back into her lab. Momo had gotten to do a bit more as she was able to create items that they were low on or to get some basic clothing for people. It wasn't a lot, but gave her a chance to put her quirk to good use and see where her limits were. After several helping from the food processor on the megaship, she was back to normal. Everyone was in good spirits when the rest of 𝐴𝐻 team came back to camp exhausted and wanting to rest. They looked in awe of the megaship and Med Rescue 5 sitting nearby. After they got some food and sat down with the group to officially meet everyone. Tiger spent some time talking with Izuku about his previous rescue and how impressed he was with his actions. He told him if there was time before he had to leave he would like to spar with him. Izuku was honored and agreed that if there was any time he would be honored. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 was having conversation with 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Recovery Girl, thanking them for coming out here to give them a hand. Both women waved it off, saying it was their pleasure and it was good to get away from time to time. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐻𝐿𝐴 started talking about 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 coming along with her, and 𝗚𝗏𝗡 said she would bring her nephew Kota by tomorrow for him to possibly make a new friend. Ragdoll was having a good time talking with the group of soon-to-be UA students and gave them some advice to survive the first semester. She wouldn't tell them everything that could happen, but did tell them to be prepared to work hard both physically and in their school studies. She also recommended to go have fun when they could or risk getting burned out. Pixie Bob was catching up with old friends from school and 𝐿ady about how she was doing since her debut so long ago. 𝐿ady told it was doing well and she was happy with her place in the ranking, and she had a good public following with Izuku helping with her charity work. She showed off a few pictures of them together. Pixie Bob teased that she was being a cradle robber until she saw the disgusted look on her face. When she explained that she saw him as his little brother and nothing more, did Pixie Bob understand and apologize to her friend. As the conversation started to wind down, everyone was more than ready to get some sleep. Izuku offered to let them have access to the ship's showers first. The Pussycats thanked him for his kindness and they went to grab a hot shower after 2 days of hard work. After they had finished and went back to their tents for the night, thanking him for the luxury of a shower. Izuku went to the bridge to look at the process of having the road cleared while everyone else got the next round of showers. Izuku was looking at the screen and nodded as Deku finished giving him the update. The roads had been 75% cleared and was projected to have them finished in the morning pending any additional mudslides or unforeseen complications. Izuku nodded and had sent a copy report to 𝐻𝐿𝐴. He rubbed his tired eyes when he heard a voice behind him. 𝐼𝐿𝐴. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 called to him in a tired voice. She was dressed for bed and holding her Red Ranger doll to her chest. Izuku had to admit it was an adorable sight. "Hey, I thought you were already asleep," Izuku said, moved and kneeled down in front of her. "Let me take a quick shower and I will come lay down." Izuku walked the girl back to his room and told her to lay down. He grabbed his sleepwear and took a quick shower before coming back to find her fighting to stay awake. He scooped her up, pulled back the sheets and laid them both down. After getting comfortable and pulling the cover over them both, he lowered his head and kissed the top of her head. "Good night, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘." The girl burrowed in deep. "Good night, Papa." The tired girl mumbled and was asleep in seconds. Izuku had frozen at the name. Did she see him like that, or was she half asleep? He cleared it from his mind. He moved his head to kiss the top of her head again. He felt at peace as he went to sleep. The next morning was busy as everyone was getting breakfast and started on getting everyone back to work. Izuku was trying to find some time to talk with 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 later about last night, but was called to a briefing. The morning briefing went better than planned when Izuku had told them that the roads had been clear this morning to let support come to them. He saw their looks of amazement, and when he showed them the sky view thanks to Arrow, they were glad to see that fresh supplies and volunteers would be here soon. The fires were almost extinguished as well. It was taking time to not cause another mudslide with too much water all at once. After the roads had been cleared, he reassigned those Zords to make fire stops to control the spread and help deal with the excess water. The mood in the room was high as they divide up the last of the areas that needed to be checked. Izuku was asked to fly over an area that hard to get to on good days, and they had been working towards that area. Izuku nodded and said he would go take a look. "You had been requested by Tiger to help move some large rocks and debris that has been washed to a cliff's edge, and they wanted to move it as a precaution." As the meeting ended, Izuku gave 𝐿ady a hug and pointed to his earpiece. "Call if you need me." He gave her a grin, and when she pulled him into playful headlock they both laughed. "You better, Izuku, or I will have to embarrass you in front of your friends." She teased and let him up. "Seriously, I am a call away if you need me." She gave him a wave as she went with Tiger to move some extra rubble. Izuku morphed into Mystic Red Ranger and called for his Mystic Racer. He took off into the sky and headed towards his destination. Izuku had been able to sweep the last area of civilians and reported back the area was clear. By the time he returned to camp, he saw that supply trucks and additional personnel arrived. Izuku came in for a landing and powered down before going to help unload fresh supplies. He had suched his morpher to one that gave him super strength. He was able to help getting the first truck unloaded when his comlink chimed. Izuku heads up. Tiger and I have just been attacked by a couple of villains near our location. We have it under control right now, but think he is with another group here to steal the supplies from the camp. I need you to mobilize the camp with 𝐿𝐴 and hold off until we can get back. 𝗏𝐿𝐴 reported to him. Fighting could be heard in the background. Copy that, 𝗏𝐿𝐴. Izuku ran over to 𝐿𝐴 and confirmed that she had received a similar report from Tiger via her headphones. She had sent out a message for Ragdoll and Pixie Bob to return, but that would take a bit for them to arrive. Deku, activate megaship defenses and prepare for unwelcome company. Affirmative, Izuku. Defensive systems are online. Also, 𝗏𝐿𝐴 is currently on board in the engineering area with May as her assistant. Izuku gave a sigh of relief at that. Thank you, Deku. Inform the others to move all civilians that are able to med rescue 5 and to have those that can assist help Recovery Girl and my mom move the sick and injured as well. Izuku was making sure that they would not be caught any possible crossfire. I am on it, Izuku. Deku acknowledged before sending out the message. Izuku turned back to see 𝗏𝐿𝐴 talking with her nephew and sent him to go with the group heading towards med rescue. After Koda was safely with the group, she turned back towards Izuku. Let's get as many people moving as possible and then we can set up the field to our advantage. Izuku nodded and the area became a flurry of activity. Everyone was directed towards the Zord and 𝗏𝐿𝐴, and Izuku worked as security just in case. May, is the teleport booster online? Izuku asked as it was taking too long to get everyone moved to safety. This had been something May had been working on to improve the teleporter system that could move a large group of people out of an area is needed. It was still in testing last he had heard about it from her. Well, kind of. May said after a moment of hesitation. It can move people a short distance at most nearby any booster that it placed nearby until I find a way to stabilize long distance for larger groups. Sound of tinkering could be heard over that side of May working on something. Would it be possible to move the civilians outside the megaship to Med 5? Izuku asked, hoping that it would speed this up. The line was quiet for almost a minute. I'm sure it could work for that. I have Deku double-checking my calculations at the moment. May replied before she could be heard breathing hard. I am up on the bridge. Deku confirmed my numbers. I will start moving people now. May exclaimed. Izuku smiled brightly. May, you are amazing. I could kiss you right now. Izuku relayed the ability to teleport everyone into the Med Rescue 5 until the villain issue could be taken care of. Unbeknown to Izuku, he had broadcast his conversation to everyone with on their comlink. You started laughing as she was beating that CRP out of a villain. Inko and Recovery Girl laughed at the semi-dense boy declaration. Ochako gave a pout. Setsuna laughed her head off literally at this and planned on teasing him later. Kyoka rolled her eyes at his antics. Momo sighed and felt a pit in her stomach at that. May had turned into a blushing mess at this and went back to work to ignore her burring face. 𝗏𝐿𝐴 looked at May with a confused look on her face, not understanding what was going on. Izuku felt a weight lift off his shoulders as people were being teleported in groups to safety. He looked around to see there was plenty of open ground to fight without causing too many issues. He flexed his hands and took steady breaths to settle himself before everything started. It wasn't long before he heard Deku again. Izuku scanners are detecting 14 hostiles approaching from the entrance road. Izuku let out one last breath before turning to face that direction. Copy that. How many more civilians do we have that still need to be teleported? Izuku changed his morpher and watched 𝗏𝐿𝐴 move to stand beside him. Last of the civilians are in Med Rescue 5 as we speak with Recovery Girl. Inko and the girls have been teleported to the megaship bridge. Deku stated quickly. Copy that, Deku, and thanks for all yours and May hard work on that booster. Izuku gave the pro-heroine a thumbs up. The both took a ready stance. I'll follow your lead, 𝗏𝐿𝐴. Izuku said, giving her a side glance. Works for me. 𝗏𝐿𝐴 replied with a smile. Hit him hard and fast so they can't do too much damage. She flexed her hand and claws came out of her gloves. Izuku nodded and watched as they got closer. Deku, can you scan this group to see who we are dealing with? From what he saw, they didn't look too strong, but one of them get him a bad feeling. The guy was taller than the other and had a mess brown hair. He was sporting a sadistic smile. Copy that. Stand by. Deku replied, all low-level criminal, but 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐿𝐼 aka hulking B-rank criminal. Brother to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝐿𝐼 aka muscular A-rank villain. Quirk, hulking strength, allows him to increase his strength and speed the angrier he gets. Izuku looked to see 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝐿𝐼 gritting her teeth. I take it you know that guy? Izuku asked, not liking the fact she was acting so stressed. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝐿𝐼 forced herself to take a breath. His brother Muscular killed a hero couple water horse. They were my cousin and his wife, Kota's parents. Her muscles were tense and she looked ready to pounce. Deku call for backup. Contact MT lady and let her know what is going on and see if Miruko or Ryukyu are available to be teleported. Also contact Nizu and Midnight as well. Izuku was not taking any chances with this guy. He would rather have too much backup than none at all. It's morphin time. Wildex. Noble Tiger. Izuku took a similar stance to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝐿𝐼 as the White Wild Force Ranger. He flexed his finger to add claws to his hands. Lead the way. Izuku said. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 nodded and sprinted forward. Is a fast charge. The first villain was down before he could figure out what happened. Izuku dropped the second one, who let out a cry alerting the others. The other low-level thugs ran in and tried to take them out. They were pitiful and not prepared to fight anyone. Izuku got telepathic messages tell him where to attack or move. It had proven quite effective against the group. Izuku and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 worked in near-perfect sync, taking them out with ease. Izuku noted that their boss hadn't moved an inch, just watched them get taken down. It was more than a little confusing. As they took out the last of them and turned to see Hulking clapping his hands together in a mocking gesture. Well, that was fun to watch this pathetic some get knocked into next week. He said before laughing. I brought them along for a laugh. I plan on beating my brother's record of killing more than 2 heroes. Hulking started to increase in size and muscles. He was living up to his alias. If I kill the both of you, then maybe the rest will come out and I can get a total of 5. He started laughing like a maniac. Izuku, follow my lead again. He maybe be big, we can take him down together. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 sent to his mind. Izuku gave her a nod and to his ready stance. Hulking lunged forward, attempting to smash both of them into the ground. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Izuku moved aside and both landed a kick to the back of his knees, sending him to the ground on all fours. Hulking scrambled back up and screamed in anger as he moved to attack Izuku. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 jumped and drove her knee into the side of his head, sending his blow off course. Izuku followed up with an uppercut to his chin, sending him sprawling on his back. Hulking grew angrier, with each blow growing in size and muscle mass each time. Izuku and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 continued their method of attack until he was starting to show signs losing steam. Hulking grew stronger, but they were faster. With each hit he received he got angrier, and he wasn't able to focus his attention long enough to get a direct hit on either of them. They whittled him down with hit-and-run tactics until he finally let his guard down to try and smash them into the ground. Izuku and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 saw their opened and took it. Izuku gave him another uppercut and sending him off the ground. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 used Izuku as a springboard and preformed a heel drop connecting to the side of Hulking's head, sending into the ground hard. They heard a groan letting them know he was somewhat still conscious. Man, that guy has a hard head. Izuku said, taking breath as he watched the down villain. He hadn't fought this hard except with training with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. He was grateful for him pushing him so hard. I'll say, I think I bruised my foot, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 stated while flexing her foot with a grimace. She reached to her team, sent out a message to her team. The villains were down at the camp. Nice work, by the way. I can see you were trained pretty well. Izuku rubbed the back of his helmet in embarrassment. I had good teachers that got me this far. Izuku had groaned when he got extra training after his rescue of Raphtalia, but now he was grateful for it. Now let's get this guy dash. Izuku was cut off by a scream of rage for Hulking. They both turned to see he was staggering to his feet. His face was bruised and bloody. I will kill you, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. He screamed before pulling a vial from his pocket and jabbing it into his arm. He's got trigger. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 swore as she told her team to hurry. It's a quirk enhancer which makes the user's quirk stronger and even more dangerous. Hulking grew taller, hitting over 8 foot tall. He was just as muscular as before, but his skin darkened to a near black with a sheen to it. His voice deepened as he started to laugh again. Now he bellowed, lunging forward much quicker than before. Izuku grabbed 𝐻𝐿𝐴 around her waist and jumped back as hulking fists slammed into the ground, leaving a crater behind. "We definitely are going to need backup," Izuku stated, dodging another massive attack from the villain as he left another crater in the ground. On the megaship deck, Momo had been watching the fight intensely. She watched as he became a new ranger and blew through the small fries with ease. She got concerned when Deku found a match to hulking as a sibling to a known hero killer. She watched as they did hit and run tactics to bring him down. She cheered along with the others on the bright when the guy went down. They were beaming with pride as his skill and teamwork. Sadly, it was short-lived as the villain got up and used something Deku identified as trigger and became ever more monstrous. Momo nearly flinched when they barely dodged and it left a crater. Now they were on the defensive. "Deku, we need to help them. There must be something we can do," Momo asked as she watched Izuku barely dodge another attack. "Yes, there is. I was planning on a big production for this back at the command center, but time is of the essence. Ochako, Kyoka, Setsuna, and Momo, please step forward." The girls did so quickly. "You all have the heart and courage to be a Power Ranger. If you accept, I will grant you each a Morpher and you can help Izuku. Do you all accept?" "Yes," was their unanimous decision. There was no hesitation in their voices. "Excellent. Hold out your hands." Deku teleport each of them a Morpher. "Now go help our boy," Deku said, beaming with pride at them. She teleported them outside at a safe distance. "Be careful, everyone," Inko whispered as she held Raphtalia close to her. "Worry not, Inko. Miruko and Ryukyu are being teleported in as well, and I have something for them as well to help tip the scales in our favor," Deku stated confidently. Back in the action, Izuku had dodged another devastating attack. He had held on to 𝐻𝐿𝐴 since he was quicker in ranger form. He needed to find an opening and go on the attack. He was still working on a plan when 6 people were teleported in: Miruko, Ryukyu, Momo, Kyoka, Setsuna, and Ochako. Izuku watched as something appeared on Miruko and Ryukyu's waist. "No way," Izuku muttered. He watched as something appeared in 𝐻𝐿𝐴's hands as well. "Go over to them and I will keep him busy, hurry." 𝐻𝐿𝐴 did as she was told. "It's morphin' time. Dragon Zord." Izuku changed into the Green Ranger and went on the offensive. He drew his dragon dagger and went to work. Momo stood tall and held her Morpher in hand. "Ready." "Ready," all 7 of them replied. "It's morphin' time. Go go Power Ranger OST go go Samurai. Red Samurai Ranger," Momo exclaimed. She summoned her Fire Smasher Zanbato before resting in on her shoulder. "Dino Thunder Power Up. Yellow Dino Ranger," Kyoka exclaimed. She summoned her Terra Grips daggers. She looked down and sighed at the skirt before ripping it off and letting it disappear into yellow particles. "Let's rock it. 335 enter. Pink Space Ranger," Chaco exclaimed. She summoned her Satellite Stunner and drew her Astro Blaster in taking a ready stance. "Dino Charger ready. Energize. Unleash the power. Green Dino Charge Ranger," Setsuna exclaimed. She summoned her Raptor Claw and Dino Saber. Setsuna looked at her skirt and sighed as well before stabbing her saber into the group and following Kyoka's example of removing her skirt. "It's morphin' time. Tiger Zord. White Ranger," Miruko exclaimed. She drew Saba from her side. She joined Kyoka and Setsuna by removing the pointless skirt. "It's morphin' time. Tyrannosaurus. Red Ranger," Ryukyu exclaimed. She summoned the Power Sword. She rolled her eyes at Miruko actions and took a ready stance, leaving her skirt in place. "SPD Emergency. Cat Ranger," 𝐻𝐿𝐴 exclaimed. She flexed her hands to form her claws before dropping back into ready stance. Hulking looked at the group glee. "This will make me a legend to kill so many heroes in one go." He turned to face them, ignoring Izuku. That was his mistake. He jumped up and slapped both of his ears, causing him to scream out in pain. Izuku then preforming a spin kick to his left leg, causing Hulking to drop to a knee. You may be big, but we'll take you down. Izuku jumped back to join his fellow Power Rangers. Mandalay, like before, coordinate us using with your quirk. Miruko, Ryukyu, you both are more experienced than us, so too lead the charge. We'll follow behind you both to back you all up. Izuku realized that he had just given orders to 3 pro heroines. I'm sorry about that, Dash. He started but was stopped when Miruko started laughing. It's all good, Izuku. It's a very sound plan, now let's put it to use. With that, Miruko leapt in with a strong slash, causing Hulking tough skin to crack. She spun and landed a roundhouse kick to his side, nearly causing him to double over. Ryukyu followed with a series of attacks to his chest, causing more cracks. Izuku nodded and lead the charge for the other Rangers. With Mandalay coordinating their attacks, had Hulking on the defensive. An armored gauntlet appeared on Ryukyu's left arm in the shape of her dragon claws, allowing her to add additional slashes. Kyoka formed her wings and jumped back and forth, landing hits across his back every time. With each gliding attack, she changed the place of attack, leaving more cracks with each strike. She used her quirk and her ear jacks exited. Her helmet looking armored and added in, cracking his armor with each strike. Ochako aimed her stunner at his face that left him disoriented and unable to fight back effectively. She fired off several shots from her blaster to help chip away at him. She holstered her blaster and touched Momo back to allow her to move faster. Momo moved in position behind Hulking and swung her firebreaker, aiming for the back of his knees, sending him sprawling onto his back. When he tried to get back up, she swung down, causing him to block with his forearms. Momo jumped up high without gravity until Ochako returned it, allowing her to add more power to her strike with gravity as an assist. Setsuna and Mandalay pounced on him and rained down slash attacks, causing him to protect his face. They were tearing through his toughened skin until a small piece fell off, revealing his real skin underneath. Hulking was also starting to slow down. Mandalay used her cat-like agility to slash him over and over again and still dodge his swings. Setsuna used her quirk and found that 4 waist-height green mechanical raptors appears at her side. She let the charge of her pack and let him have it. Pour it on. Izuku shouted as he charged up and landed a power slash his side, causing more pieces to start falling off. He charged up his dagger and sent green lightning at him, causing more small pieces to fall off of Hulking's body. Hulking was still raging and was getting bigger, allowing for them to dodge his slowing attacks and land more hits. He tried several times to shake them off, but was too large to reach them. He swung at them in desperation, but was too large to hit anyone. Let's finish this. Izuku cried as he charged up again and jumped forward, dragon power slash. Miruko leapt up and rotated in the air for her finishing move. White Ranger Lunar Arc, Miruko cried, and she performed her signature axe kick. Ochako combined her satellite stunner and astro blaster to form the satellite stunner booster mode. She charged it up and fired at Hulking. Kyoka jumped up and charged her daggers, Tria power slash. She landed a large X-patter across his back. Setsuna charged up her Dino Saber and lunged forward, green power Dino slash. She hit her mark across his chest before moving away. Mandalay charged up her claws. Cat Ranger slash attack. She slashed him into another large X pattern across his chest. Momo added her power disc to her firebreaker and charged it up. She jumped forward, bringing down the burning sword into a devastating attack. Thanks to Mandalay coordination, each attack against him back-to-back, causing a small explosion. They looked to see the villain still standing until his armored skin fell away, leaving his regular skin mildly burned and bruised. Hulking fell forward with a defeated thud. All the Rangers cheered and celebrated at their teamwork. Everyone hugged and high-fived at their victory. Ryukyu moved forward and, after making sure he was still alive, powered down and placed quirk restraint cuffs on Hulking. The group followed suit and powered down as well. They stopped celebrating long enough to restrain the rest of the villains and went to check on the civilians. After it was safe for everyone to come out, 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Raphtalia rushed out and pulled everyone into a bone-crushing hug. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was beyond happy to see they unharmed and told them they were amazing heroes. Raphtalia was bouncing on her feet, trying to recreate what she saw. Her eyes were sparkling like diamonds when she asked for hoodies of the new Rangers. After promising to get her some later, she settled down. Everyone was in good spirits. Unbeknown to the group, a cameraman and his crew had come in with the supply truck to get some footage of the disaster for the news office. They were already covering it when the villains attacked. He left his camera outside and recording when the fighting broke out. Later, when he went to look over the footage, he knew he had struck gold. He called up his boss and told him about the footage. It would be later that night that they would broadcast it to the world. Deku had completed a scan of the downed villain and grew concerned at something she had detected something from the villain. She needed to get a sample for further analysis, but she was sure there was something in it that was not supposed to be in this dimension. Something monstrous and evil. When the rest of the heroes arrived back at the camp with their own villains tied up being dragged behind them, they were more than a little surprised to see more villains already tied up and waiting to be picked up by the authorities. After seeing Ryukyu and Miruko with a morpher at their waists, 𝐿ady was more than a little jealous. Izuku pulled her into a hug and said that he was sure there would come a time she would get one. That she was a great heroine and had come a long way in the time he had first met her. He told her she would be an amazing ranger. 𝐿ady got emotional at his words and pulled him into a sisterly hug, which embarrassed him greatly as everyone else snickered at his predicament. It wasn't long before a small celebration broke out. Inko had requested that they get a group shot of them with the morphers visible so she could make copies and frame it for them later. Before long, Mandalay came by to hand him a pair of cat-like headphones and agreed that he would be made an honorary member of the Pussycats. He got his photo taken with the team wearing them. The evening went well and everybody was in good spirits. Setsuna was overjoyed that she could create raptor pets in her ranger form to do her bidding. Ochako was interested that she could use her quirk through her gloves and wanted to test out what its limits were. Kyoko wanted to test out her Terra Scream when she had a chance to do so safely. Momo wanted to train some more with her Zanbato. She had been trained in the use of a katana in her youth, but she wanted to mstr her new weapon. Mei was working happily on adding the final touches for the new Rangers communicator watchers so she could give them to everyone. It was at this point that Setsuna started to get mischievous with her friends. "Oh Aizu, if memory serves, you promised Mei here that you would give her a kiss for that teleport booster she built." Setsuna gave him a wicked grin at this. Both Izuku and Mei went bright red at this. Miruko and Ryukyu started snickering at together. I meant I wouldn't want to assume anything." Izuku was bright red at this, trying to find a way out of this. Izuku was not sure how to properly handle this, and he could tell he would get no support or aid from his sisters. Mei was blushing as she stood up and moved closer to him. "I am waiting, Zuzu." Mei kept her eyes up at the sky as if it was the most interesting thing in the world. She pointed to her cheek with a finger. "You said you would and I did deliver." Izuku stood and took a deep breath before moving closer to Mei. He moved to kiss her cheek when Miruko called her name at the last second, making her turn directly into Izuku's path. Izuku's lips connected with Mei. Both of them tensed at the contact as they stared into each other's eyes. Miruko smiled at her prank working to get the two adorable nerds to kiss. Ryukyu gave her an elbow before laughing herself. Both of them nearly fell over from laughter. Yu giggled at their shy display. Inko was smiling big and captured the shot to send to Nemuri later. Setsuna face palmed at her antics backfiring like this. She thought he would weasel his way out of it and be a blushing mess. She had wanted to be the one to kiss him. Ochako blinked few times and let out a sigh. She wanted to be angry, but Mei was the victim of Miruko and Setsuna's pranks. She needed to adjust her own plan accordingly. Momo watched in fascination as Izuku and Mei kissed due to her friend's antics and his sisters seeing an opportunity to prank him. She planned on talking to Izuku when they got home about the feelings she was having. Kyoka smiled at this, and a part of her was envious of her pink-haired friend. She was an innocent as they come, and so was the green bean. She knew this was made to happen by two pranksters. She would have to keep an eye on things. She would need to find some time to talk to him. Izuku was frozen looking into her eyes and pulled back after their lips touched nearly 30 seconds later. "May I dash?" Izuku started, but she placed a finger on his lips. He watched as she gave him a genuine smile. "Thank you, Izuku." Mei said softly. She turned and skipped the entire way to the back to the megaship without a care in the world. Everyone looked at Izuku as he was still bright red from the kiss. He wasn't sure what to do with that and was sure steam was pouring out his ears. After that, everyone decided to call it a night to get some rest from the stressful day and went to bed. Izuku had gotten out the shower to find 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 already asleep in his bed. He smiled and curled up beside her and kissed the top of her head. The next morning was a lot of preparation for them to leave in the afternoon for their return to UA. Now that the relief supplies and support had arrived along with the roads were now cleared of debris, it was time for them to depart. Setsuna let out a sigh as she went back to her work and had just finished up restocking the medical tent when she saw 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 looking really upset, wet and covered in mud. "Hey kiddo, what happened to you?" Setsuna asked, wiping some of the mud from her face with a rag. It looked like she had been in a scuffle with someone. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 huffed angrily. "𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 came over after his aunt dropped him off this morning for us to play together. He was fine for a little while, but when I told him Izuku and the others were my heroes, he called me stupid for believing in heroes." 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 had tears in her eyes. "He said heroes just die." The little girl cried a little harder. "So I punched him and we fought until he threw mud in my face before ran away." Setsuna pulled the girl into a hug and ran a hand through her hair. "It's okay." Setsuna picked the girl up and carried her to the ship. "Let's get you cleaned up and into some clean clothes." Setsuna felt her nod into her shirt. She got her inside and got her washed up. After getting her changed into some clean clothes and combed her hair, she looked better. "They're good as new." 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 hadn't said much during that time. "Can I ask you a question?" She was playing with the hem of her shirt, looking at the ground. "Sure, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. What do you want to ask?" Setsuna knelt down to look the girl in the eyes. The little girl seemed to be wrestling with something. Setsuna made sure to comfort the girl until she was ready to talk with her. "Before I fell asleep the other night, I called Izuku Papa," 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 said quietly. "I heard from the other kids the day before that a papa is someone who raises and takes care of someone." 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 looked at Setsuna with big teary searching eyes. "Will Izuku be mad if I call him Papa?" Her voice was so small she almost didn't hear it. Setsuna had never thought much about having children later in life. She was only 15, for crying out loud. This little girl was flipping on her maternal 𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗟 in a big way with her question. She scooped the girl up and held her closely. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟, I am sure that if you ask Izuku, he would let you call him that in heartbeat. I know he cares for you like your family. I see him showing off pictures of you on his phone." Setsuna watched the little girl look up at her. "He brags about you all the time." "Really?" 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 asked, her voice a little stronger. Her eyes were sparkling brightly like stars in the sky at this. Her tail was swinging a mile a minute with excitement. Setsuna nodded, running her hand through her hair. "Really?" She pulled her back into a hug. "Now let's get you a new shirt and go talk to Izuku, okay?" She felt the girl nod into her shirt. Setsuna walked to the clothing replicator to make a special shirt. Izuku had looked over the last of the wildfire area from Arrow 3 had been extinguished earlier that morning. He had Deku recall the Zords back and started to help finish unload the trucks of supplies. He had just unloaded last of the boxes when he saw Setsuna carrying 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 in his direction. He dusted off his hands and headed towards them. "What is going on, Setsuna?" "Little one here got into a scuffle with 𝗀𝗀𝗧𝗟 and was upset." Setsuna told him what 𝗀𝗀𝗧𝗟 had said to her that lead up to the fight. The entire time 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 was clinging to Setsuna like a lifeline. "She wanted to talk to you about something." Izuku crouched down to a knee and patted her head. "What wrong?" He pat her head until she let go of Setsuna and showed him the shirt she was wearing. "Red, I love Papa." Izuku nearly froze when he saw it. He remembered her words from the other night. "Will you be my Papa?" 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 asked, eyes full of hope and anxiety. Izuku looked at her and thought back to how he had looked after her more as a daughter than as an older brother. He scooped her up and held her close. "If you want me to be, then I will be your Papa." Izuku watched her eyes brighten and smile just as brightly as she hugged him tight and cried happy tears. Setsuna watched all of this and took a picture of them for later on. She had to admit it made her a bit teary-eyed to see this. She would deny it anyone ever asked her. She was about to walk away when 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 broke the hug with Izuku and moved to hug her. "Thank you, Suna," she exclaimed with happy tears. Setsuna felt her heart skip a beat at this level of cuteness. "Anytime, kiddo, I am just a phone call away if you need to talk." She hugged the girl tight and made a vow to always protect his little girl. "Am I becoming a mama dinosaur?" She wondered as she released her from the hug and watched her run back to Izuku, who scooped her up, making her laugh and giggle. "Alright, let's talk to 𝐻𝗫𝐿 about this." Izuku stumbled over the words and hoped that she wouldn't kill him for this. Izuku turned back to Setsuna with his signature smile. "Thank you for help, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. You are going to make an amazing mom someday." Izuku turned and headed toward his mother, talking with 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. Setsuna stood like a statue at his comment. She knew she was blushing hard and felt like her face was on fire. She was a small moment where she imagined him holding a little curly green hair girl that looked like her. She imagined he was carrying their daughter. She slapped her face at this and felt her heart almost beat out of her chest. Oh God! What all she could think to say. 𝗏𝐻𝐭 was ecstatic at being called grandma by 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. After Izuku came and talked to her about what happened between the two children and how she wanted Izuku to be her papa, she went into grandma mode and hugged her tight and promised to spoil her rotten. She had been a little concerned that he was wanting to become her father figure so young, but he was mature for his age and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 needed this. Izuku and 𝗏𝐻𝐭 talked it over and would get the adoption papers taken care when they got back to UA. 𝗏𝐻𝐭 was fussing over her, making all sort of plans for them to do together. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 was smiling ear to ear, bouncing around with not a care in the world. "Sorry to bother you," 𝗏𝗠𝗠𝐿 said as she walked into view with a stern hand on 𝗀𝐻𝐿's shoulder. "I got the story out of him. What happened?" 𝗏𝗠𝗠𝐿 bowed her head. "I am so sorry for what happened." Izuku gave her a small smile. "It's okay, they are both young and these things happen." Izuku gestured for 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 to come over to him. She let out a huff and stood beside Izuku, glaring at 𝗀𝐻𝐿. "𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟, please apologize to 𝗀𝐻𝐿 for hitting him." The girl looked like she was about to protest, but let out a loud, dramatic sigh. "I am sorry for hitting you, 𝗀𝐻𝐿." 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟's tone was monotone and she kept glaring at him. She kept her hands in a tight fist. "Even if you deserved it," she mumbled under her breath. Kyoko and Rumi had heard her and had to suppress a snicker. 𝗀𝐻𝐿 glared back just as hard before patted him on the shoulder by his aunt, and he let out a loud sigh as well. "Ugh, I am sorry for what I said and throwing mud at you." His words were forced and he refused to break his return glare. Izuku and 𝗏𝗠𝗠𝐿 both let out a sigh as well at their antics. They weren't going to be friends anytime soon. Izuku decided to try a diplomatic approach with him. As he moved to a crouched position in front of him to talk, his sister and friends arrived to see what was going on. Setsuna was still sporting a light blush from their earlier conversation. "Hey 𝗀𝐻𝐿, my name is Izuku." He extended his hand in a friendly gesture. "I didn't get a chance to meet you with everything that was going on." Izuku gave him a smile as he seemed to extend his hand to shake his hand, until he drew back and hit him in the groin. Izuku doubled over to the ground as his friends rushed to check up on him. 𝗏𝗠𝗠𝐿 face palmed at this and let out a sigh of frustration. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 growled and lunged at him, taking him to the ground and started to wailing on him. 𝗀𝐻𝐿 brought his arms up to protect his face. Momo and Ochako moved quick and pulled her off 𝗀𝐻𝐿. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 was still trying to get at him as she growled and tried to get loose. "No one does that to my papa," she screamed, still trying to get out of Momo and Ochako grasp. This had an odd effect as everybody looked over at 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 with confused looks except Setsuna and 𝗏𝐻𝐭. "Papa?" they asked together in confusion, looked at 𝗏𝐻𝐭 for answers as Izuku was currently indisposed. "Well, it a bit of a story." 𝗏𝐻𝐭 laughed awkwardly as the girls tended to Izuku by giving him an ice for his groin. After telling them the full story about how her initial scuffle with 𝗀𝐻𝐿 and her asking Izuku to be her papa, the girls awed at that adorable request from the girl. And Lady, Miruko, and Ryukyu all high-fived at being aunts and all called dibs before arguing on who would be the cool aunt. Izuku was just starting to feel better when 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 looked over and asked him a question. "Since you are my papa, then who is my mama?" Her question was completely innocent, but it had an effect on the group. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 covered her mouth to muffle her laughter at her innocent question. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐿ady and Ryukyu were snickering at this. Miruko laughed to her amusement. Setsuna blushed as she remembered her thoughts from earlier with her fantasy of a little girl of her own. Ochako blushed red at the thought of have someone call her mama and wasn't opposed to it. Mei flushed red thinking of Kiss from last night and gave her a new way of thinking about babies with her Zuzu. Kyoko flushed dark red at imagining Izuku being that romantic with her and acting as 𝗏𝗡𝗡 mom. Momo nearly passed out from her blush think out being called mama by green or dark-haired children running around her. Izuku was a stuttering mess and had the perfect impression of a tomato. He cleared his throat to give him a moment to calm down. Well, there is no mama at the moment since I am not seeing anyone romantically just yet. Izuku was trying to find the fastest way to end this conversation. Someday though you will have someone to call you can call mama. Izuku gave her a smile to reassure her hoping that would end the conversation. 𝗏𝗡𝗡 seemed to think on his words for a moment before as she asked another question. Why not see one of your pretty friends that are girls so I can have a mama now? She stated like it was the simplest solution in the world. She showed just how innocent she was with her question. You kissed Mei last night. At this Izuku. EXE has ceased function again. Please wait while it reboots. Izuku fainted. The girls all sporting blushes rushed to check on him. The adults no longer hid their amusement at this. 𝗏𝗡𝗡 was confused to what was so wrong with what she said. It was a little while later Izuku had been able to regain consciousness and told her they would talk about it later so he could finish getting the ship ready for takeoff. Mandalay tried to give him a personal apology for her nephew's actions, but he waved it off as he was in pain and needed time to come to terms with his parents' death. Izuku gave her a communicator and told her to call if she ever needed a hand. They shook hands as he went on board the ship. He made a small at the replicator and made something real fast. He arrived on the bridge to find everyone milling around except for Ochako, who had finished the pre-flight checks and had the console in the green. She still looked so natural behind the flight controls. Everything ready for our departure? Izuku asked, already knowing the answer. He had glanced over to see everything already taken care of. Yes, everything is in the green and ready for our return trip to UA. Ochako replied with chipper tone. Awaiting your word. Ochako gave him a cheeky smile. Izuku chuckled and closed and locked the hangar door before tossing a small silver piece to her. She caught it on a reflex. Take us home, Captain. Ochako looked at the silver tag. Captain Uraraka, she looked at him in surprise. Captain? She asked in surprise. Izuku gave her a shrug. Well, since you are the Pink Space Ranger and can fly the ship like you were born at the controls, it only made sense you would take good care of her. Izuku gestured to the ship with his hands. Now let's get on our way home. Izuku said, turning towards the main screen. Ochako smiled almost as bright as the sun when she started her countdown to lift off and headed back to UA. She wanted to get to know the ship better and maybe give her a name besides the megaship. It was hers after all. She set it on autopilot and pinned the tag to her shirt with pride. She watched as Izuku picked up his new daughter and let her look at the screen from his eye level, pointing out different things to her. She felt her heart skip a beat as he was so sweet with her, and she couldn't help but admire him for it. UA Midnight let out a tired sigh as they went over the class schedules for the past several days and finalized the rosters for all the classes and years. All that was left was the 1A and 1B class roster, and she is home free. She had checked her messages before they got started and saw that several new Rangers had made an appearance, with 3 of them pro heroines. She sent a message to you for details and smirked when she saw Izuku and Mei kiss. She nearly squealed out loud when she found out she was an aunt and the adorable picture they sent her of 𝗏𝐻𝐾𝐿, Izuku, and 𝗏𝗡𝗡. She knew she was going to have a battle for the spot of cool aunt with her niece. She wished she had been free of this to have gone with them. She was brought out of her amusement when Nizu had cleared his throat. Now that we have all the other classes taken care of, we not get down to the 2 hero course classrooms. Nizu had a stack of folders in front of him. Now I have the current roster set for both classes and taking your request and choices for each class. Here you are, gentlemen. Shoyuta and Vlad King took their rosters and quickly scanned over them, looking for one name in particular. Both men reached the end of their list before looking at Nizu. "Where is Izuku?" they asked simultaneously. Midnight gave them a confused look until they slid both lists over to her to scan each of them. Class 1A Momo Yaoyorozu are Shoto Todoroki are Katsuki Bakugo BD Tenya Ida Fumikage Tokoyami Mizo Shoji Mashireo Ojiro Ijiro Kirishima Mina Ashido Achiko Uraraka Koji Koda Hitoshi 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐴𝐵 Yuga Aoyama Hanta Siro Denki Kaminari Kyoka Jiro Toru Hagakure Melissa Shield r/BD Minor Mineta BD Class 1B Setsuna Tokage are Juzo Hananuki r. Shirhai Kuwaro Taguru Kamakiri Tetsutetsu Juroda Shishida Senkaibara Yosetsu Aways Nito Minoma BD Kozai Tsuburaba Hiryu Rin Ibara Shiozaki Itsuka. Kendo Nairenjiki Shoda Reiko Yanagi Yui Kodai Kojiro Bondo Pony Tsunatori Kinoko Komori Manga Fukudashi are recommended student BD board decision. What the hell? Midnight asked as she looked just as confused as fellow teachers. Why are there 5 recommended students and why was Izuku left off the list? He was the highest scoring candidate from the exams. She knew most of these names from the testing. Minoru and Minoma scored the lowest on the written exams and barely had enough points for them to consider for hero class placement. Bakugo scored well, but his demeanor towards other students put him at the bottom of the list. Only Shoyuta, Midnight, Recovery Girl and Nizu knew about his past with Izuku to keep scoring him as unbiased as possible. She was unfamiliar with the name Melissa Shield. Nizu let out a tired sigh. After taking your requests into consideration for students, I submitted the final roster to board for their approval. They called me in to say that they had made changes to the roster, which is the very lists I gave you both. Nizu watched at the teachers in the room look incredulous that they made changes like this. Chairman Minoma stated that Izuku cheated during the exam using unapproved equipment and removed him from the hero class roster. He removed another candidate to place his nephew in 1B after 1A was already filled after he approved the placements for Bakugo and Minoru to be placed in 1A. Shoyuta slammed his fist into the table. He had approval from you and that is all that is required by our school charter. He didn't cheat. He beat his nephew and wanted to block him from getting into class. Shoyuta was several different kinds of furious. I didn't want Bakugo in my class. He has no concept of teamwork or thinks of anything else, but fighting head-on. Minoru has multiple red flags in his file from middle school of harassment and inappropriate conduct with female students. Shoyuta was just building steam. I don't even know who Melissa Shield is supposed to be. Vlad King wasn't much better. My choice of student was bumped because Monama's uncle pulled a few strings to get him into my class instead of general studies class. Vlad really wanted Izuku in his class and had left his last slot open for him. The other teachers were joining in on this, adding their own opinions to this. Nizu spoke up for all of them to hear. I voiced those same concerns and I was overruled. I have a lot of leeway and authority, but I still answer to their decisions. Both Minoru and Bakugo were vouched for by friends of the chairman and the obvious for his nephew. Nizu had to grit his teeth in frustration at that man. I have no proof at the moment, but I am sure the real reason he blocked Izuku was for being quirkless. Midnight gasped in shock as did the rest of the teachers. That not fair to Izuku for being born different and he was graded by teachers that didn't even know him for his points. There has to be something we can do. Nizu gave her a nod. Yes, I will get back to him shortly. To answer your question, Shoyuta, about Miss Shields. He slid a file in front of him. She was recommended by All Might himself in a private test for her placement in UA. She is apparently a late bloomer and is the daughter to famous inventor David Shields. Shoyuta groaned at the mention to that blonde moron. He had not had a high opinion before meeting Izuku, but after he heard his encounter with the man it dropped considerably. So All Might goes to bat for her and suddenly the board bends over backwards to appease him and tosses another student who earned their way to the wayside to be placed in my class. He slid the file to Namuri and focused on his boss. Unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. Now rest assured that I have my own personal privileges as the principal that I don't use very often, but I figured it was time to do so. Nizu had a mischievous grin on his face. Nizu slid them all a copy of the current UA charter and highlight a few lines. Izuku has been my personal student for the last 10 months, and I am using my ability to have him continue to be my personal student as he attends both hero classes along with a few regular lessons to let him interact with his peers. 𝐶𝐿, Midnight, and Vlad all smiled at their boss's cunning. They all knew he was always a few moves ahead of everyone else. They were sure that he was planning the downfall of the chairman at a minimum and the whole board as a nuclear option. You are a genius, boss. Midnight said as she couldn't wait to see the smug bastard's face he found out about 𝐻𝐻𝐻's plan. Thank you, Midnight, but I won't give you a raise for you praise. 𝐻𝐻𝐻 chuckled as she gave him a faux snap of the fingers in disappointment. This will allow for Izuku to help improve both classes as his analytical abilities are incredible and he has only gotten better since he has become my student. This caused a shiver to go down most of the staff's spine in terror of a possible another 𝐻𝐻𝐻 in the school. Now then, 𝐶𝐿 and Vlad, you cannot expel students from your class on the first day unless you have documented cause or a serious violation of the rules. 𝐶𝐿, that means no expulsion on the first day for having no talent. Vlad, that mean you can't toss Monoma out for his special treatment or his attitude. Both teachers slumped and mutter a string of curses at what they had planned. Both men got what they wanted in a roundabout way, which was Izuku. Where is our new teacher anyway? Shouldn't he be here as well since he starts teaching this semester? 𝐶𝐿 asked in annoyance of him not showing up at all during their prep time. 𝐻𝐻𝐻 gave him a frown. He is closing up his agency office as we speak to live on campus. He will be here before start of the semester. 𝐻𝐻𝐻 had been very annoyed that All Might had waited until the last minute for him to close his office. He had been keeping tabs on all his activates for the past 10 months. He had been spending a lot of time at Island personally training Melissa Shields for her place at UA. Now let's get this done. Everyone was in agreement to finish this up quickly as possible. The trip back to UA was a relaxing on with everybody in good spirits. His sisters had changed out of the hero costumes and got comfortable on the bridge. 𝐴𝐿 was currently listening to a story Ryuko was telling her early days as a heroine and the young girl was hanging on to her every word. Rumi was teasing you about getting a morpher, gesturing to her belt. You pouted at this but bragged she got to ride on the megaship first. Everyone was in need of the calm trip back after the excitement of the last few days. When they arrived at UA to drop everyone off, his friends were surprised to see their parents there to take them home. Everyone said this goodbyes and made plans to talk later. After everyone was off, the megaship Deku teleported it back to the Zord Bay. Ochako gave her ship a sad wave as she watched it disappear. Izuku had carried a sleepy 𝐴𝐿 to his mother car and sat with her in the back seat. 𝐻𝐻𝐻 had gotten it several months ago to get to and forth to work. After getting home and everyone getting cleaned up, they all went to bed in need of good night's sleep. 𝐴𝐿 was tucked into her bed and was sleeping soundly before Izuku went to crash for the night as well. The last few days before the start of school was filled with trying to get as much time for fun as possible. He had to meet with Mona about new jackets and toys for the new ranger suits. She had requested the girls morph for reference photos with a hope to have them out within a few weeks, and she was already getting flooded with requests for the female rangers apparel. She was even making a request for Miruko and Ryukyu to come for pictures as well. He had allowed for Momo to have access to the main computer archives of Power Ranger history records so she can read to her heart's content on a plethora of things. Momo was practically drooling at the chance to learn about new and incredible things in the archives. She had hugged Izuku tightly with joy until she realized what she had done and became a bit flustered at her actions. Izuku had showed Kyoka the history of the Yellow Dino Ranger, who was not only a Power Ranger, but went on to become a famous singer and with dozens of records. Izuku even downloaded her songs onto a hard drive for her to sift through later. He told her that she was an amazing singer and someday would be just as famous as her predecessor. Kyoka got a bit flustered at this as she knew he was being completely honest with her and meant every word. Setsuna had spent the time exploring the variety of Dino Zords, enjoyed every minute of it as they were a dream come true. She even practicing with her ranger ability of making raptors and practicing on how to be more effective with them. She had gotten close to 𝐴𝐿 since their bonding moment. She went with ride with her in her raptor Zord and the two became thick as thieves. Ochako had taken the time and named the megaship the Uravity after her possible hero name when it was in ship mode. She had even gotten Deku to help her stencil the name on near the bay door. She had also gotten to test fly the other Space Ranger Megazords much to her delight. She even went fly with Izuku on a galaxy glider when he changed into a black Space Ranger to go have fun. May had spent her time with Deku working on getting the teleporter improvements up and running with a few bugs here and there. She had also gotten something she called the Forge up and running. It allowed for them to add or created weapons to their arsenal and store them in their morphers. She had the most fun when she was building. And she even got Izuku to test a few weapons for her and they didn't blow up. Also while at the command center they trained with their Zords and to let them have some fun with the vehicles on the test track. Izuku made sure that they all had access to all the training programs and that they knew how to use the systems at the command console. They also made time to just relax and have some fun like a movie or game night. The girls had made plans for a girls' night at Momo Place to have some girl talk. Izuku understood and spent the evening teaching 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 how to play Mario Kart. Unbeknown to him, there was a serious discussion about him. Before they knew it, the semester was set to start. Izuku finished getting his bag together for his first day of school. He was nervous about attending since he didn't know which class he was in or how his classmates would react to him being quirkless. He put on his uniform jacket and had attempted to get his tie knotted correctly, but it was a mess. He walked out into the kitchen where 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 had finishing her breakfast and was coloring with crayons. She was dressed and her bag was ready to go. His mother was already dressed for work reading the news and drinking her coffee. "Morning, Mom." "Morning, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟." Izuku said, placing his backpack on the table before fiddling with his tie some more. "Morning, dear." 𝗏𝐻𝐿 said, finishing up her coffee and placing the cup in the sink with the rest of the morning dishes. "Morning, Papa." 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 said, jumping out of her chair to give him a hug. Izuku scooped her up and gave her a kiss on the head. She squealed with delight at this. Izuku put her back on the ground and attempted to make his tie look proper. His mother took on pity on him and helped him tie it properly and took a step back and smiled brightly at her son. "You look really cool, Izuku." Izuku returned her smile before pulling her into a big hug. "Thank you, Mom, for everything you have done for me." Izuku meant every word. She had been his rock for so long on his journey and now he was about to take his next step. "I love you." 𝗏𝐻𝐿 wrapped her arms her son and kissed the top his head. "I love you too, Izuku. Now and forever." She held her son for a little while until she felt 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 join in on the hug. 𝗏𝐻𝐿 smiled and rustled the young girl's hair. In this moment everything was right with the world. "Okay, we need to get going if we are going to get to UA on time." 𝗏𝐻𝐿 used her quirk to have her keys come to her hand. They all grabbed their bags and went down to the car. They piled into the car and headed out to UA. As they arrived at the UA parking area, Izuku needed to head for the main entrance as 𝗏𝐻𝐿 and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 were heading to the nurse's office. Izuku gave them both another hug and kiss before running off to 𝗏𝐻𝐿's office. Izuku made it to his office early to find out his class placement so he could get to class on time. He knocked on the door and waited. The door swung open to see 𝗏𝐻𝐿 behind his desk with someone in his office. "Morning, sir. I was told to report to you for my class placement." Izuku wanted to make sure he was showing 𝗏𝐻𝐿 his proper respect in front so someone he didn't know. Yes, Mr. Midoryia. Please come have a seat. I am just finishing up a meeting and will be right with you." 𝗏𝐻𝐿 gestured to another chair in the room. Izuku nodded and took the chair to wait. 𝗏𝐻𝐿 had put on his professional face. "Actually, I wanted to speak with Midoryia anyway." The man sitting in the opposite chair. "My name is 𝗏𝐻𝐿 Minoma and I am with HPSC. The man now identified as 𝗏𝐻𝐿 extended a hand towards Izuku with a smirk on his face. Something did not sit right with Izuku. Izuku stared at the man's hand. "If I had to guess, your quirk is based on touch to activate." Izuku watched as the smirk on the 𝗏𝐻𝐿's face fall and caught a glimpse of the smirk on 𝗏𝐻𝐿's face. Izuku crossed his arms. "Now what can I do for you, Mr. Monama?" Izuku watched the man lose the mask he was wearing almost immediately. "I am here as a representative from the HPSC with a request that you and your friends are to hand over your morphers, I believe you call them, and all other tech in your possession to our custody." 𝗏𝐻𝐿 made his request with his smirk returning. I came here to talk with your principal about giving you our request, but since you are here I will be taking yours now. The man extended his hand again. Izuku looked at the guy like he was insane. He watched the man's face looked completely shocked. I know the rules of UA and of the HPSC. I know that what I have and allow my friends access to does not violate either set of rules. I am not required to hand anything over to you or the HPSC. Izuku watched the man clench his fist and his face showed an angry scowl. Izuku leaned back to get comfortable in his chair. Listen here, boy. You will hand it over now or I will have you arrested for refusing the request of an HPSC official. Nero stood up and jabbed a finger in Izuku's direction. You're not even a hero student. No, you place boy. That is where you are very wrong, Mr. Monoma, and if you do not stop trying to threaten my personal student, I will see that you are skirted out of my office. 𝐻𝐿's voice was calm, but his tone said everything else. My Midoriya is correct that he has broken no rules for UA or HPSC. You have no authority over his possessions or anything on his person. 𝐻𝐿 leaned forward on his desk. Now your business is now concluded. I will ask you to leave or I will have security escort you out. I do not care who your brother is. 𝐻𝐿 hit the button on his door and pointed to the exit. Oh, and tell your brother that I will be waiting for his call. Nero turned and walked to the door. This isn't over, 𝐻𝐿. This will be the final nail in your coffin and I will be back to take everything from him. After he had cleared the door, it shut behind him. 𝐻𝐿 let out a tired sigh. I am sorry, Izuku, I wasn't expecting them to react this so soon. 𝐻𝐿 leaned back into his chair and massaged his head. Dealing with that man has given me a migraine. Izuku nodded his head. We expected this after my rescue, but we didn't take into consideration the battle with hulking would move up our timetables. Izuku leaned his head back. I am sure that they will try to pass some change to rules to come after me, but we would be grandfathered into the old rules. 𝐻𝐿 nodded along with him. I am sure the reason I am meeting with you for a class placement is why he said I wasn't a hero student. 𝐻𝐿 smiled proudly. That is correct. His brother is Chairman Inigo Monoma of the board for UA. 𝐻𝐿 walked Izuku through the entire story of how Bakugo, Minoru and Nero's son Nieto were placed in the hero course and Izuku was bumped out. 𝐻𝐿's solution as his personal student, he would attend both classes. His purpose was help analyze both classes and help them improve their abilities. Well, that sounds up my alley. Izuku smiled at his mentor's genius. Thank you for letting by your student, sir. Izuku bowed his head in respect. I won't let you down, sir. I know, Izuku. 𝐻𝐿 replied with a smile. I know. 𝐻𝐿 reached into his drawer and pulled out several files. This is from the money you gave me after selling most of your All Might collection. Mona and I made several profitable investments on your behalf. He slid the folder in front of Izuku. Izuku opened the folder to look it over and nearly had a heart attack at the numbers he was seeing. Are these real numbers? Izuku had never seen so much money before in his life. His mom had worked really hard to take care of them. This much money would take care of all of them for the rest of their life several times over. They are real and still making more money as we speak. 𝐻𝐿 said, gesturing forward to the next file on the stack. Now let's get down to business for our next step. 𝐀𝐮 wants you down at the field shortly for his assessment. 𝐻𝐿 slid the next file on front of him. In big bold letters were Project SPD. Yes, sir. Izuku smiled at the file. He flipped open the file and they both went to work. Near classroom 1A, Kyoka let out a sigh as she neared the 1A classroom. She could hear two people shouting and could tell they would give her a headache. She had met up with the others at the front gate before heading inside. Mei was the first to head off to her support classroom, departing with a wave to all of them. They walked until Setsuna saw her room and gave them all a hug before heading off to her own class with a sad face. Momo, Ochako and Kyoko entered the room to see the blue hair boy from the exams shouting at another person from their exams, a blonde boy. They found out their names were Tenya Ida and Katsuki Bakugo. They were not impressed with either boy, as Bakugo was crass and loud and Ida was too rigid and almost robotic. The three of them took a few desks in the back of the classroom and waited. As it got close to the start of class, more people entered the room. With each person that came in their spurts fell as Izuku still wasn't in the class. With 10 minutes before class started, the feeling solidified as the last desk was filled with a blonde American girl. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 took out her phone and messaged in their girl chat. Girl chat: rock goddess 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Oh. 𝐶𝐮𝐻𝐵. Is Izuku in your class? Ours is full and no Izuku/D. No girl 𝐶𝐮𝐻𝐵. What? No, our last few people just arrived and no Izuku either. Tech girl May, 𝐻𝐻. We saw his acceptance picture and he got first place. He smashed the record for it. Gravity girl 𝐿𝐻𝐴CO. Yeah, we all saw it. We know he is supposed to be with us. Forge Momo. I don't like this. Rock goddess 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Me either. PM rock goddess/green bunny rock goddess 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Hey green bean. Are you coming to class or what? Green bunny Izuku. Hey. You will see me shortly. There is a lot of BS going on and I will tell you guys when I see you. Gotta go. Girl chat: rock goddess 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Uploaded screenshot. JPEG rock goddess 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 says he will see soon. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 looked at the time and put her phone away. She shared a confused look from her friends at the cryptic message from their green friend. She gave them a shrug as they sat back in their seats. As the bell rang, a large yellow-looking caterpillar crawled into the room. The bag opened and a scraggy-looking man got out and turned to the class. You are all too loud and took too long to settle down. It's irrational. My name is Shoyuta Aizawa and I will be your homeroom teacher. He gave them all a stern look before placing 2 boxes on top of his desk, one labeled boys and the other girls. Come grab your gym uniform package with your name on it and head to the locker rooms to change and get to the training field 3 in 10 minutes or else. Everyone scrambled and made a dash for the locker room. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 led her 2 friends to the field and was surprised to see they were the first to arrive to meet their teacher. They still had several minutes until the deadline. They watched as the other students were not far behind them as they were scrambling to get there. When everyone had arrived to the field, Aizawa spoke to the class. Now let's get going before we waste any more time. You will all be going through a quirk apprehension test so that I may gauge your current skill levels. What about our orientation? 𝐻𝐴CO asked, confused as she remembered that it was on their list of activities for their first day until they received their official class schedule. My class. My rules. Aizawa replied to her as them gestured for them to line up. He grabbed a ball and held it in his hand. Bakugo, you ranked 2nd in the entrance exams. What was your longest throw in middle school? Bakugo gave him a bored look. 67 meters. Aizawa nodded his head. Now do it with your quirk. He tossed Bakugo the ball and stepped back. Bakugo headed for the circle. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 tapped Momo on the shoulder. Hey, I think that is the guy Izuku warned us about. Can you make me some hearing protection? Sure. Momo makes some special hearing protection for 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 before making a pair for 𝐻𝐴CO and herself. The other girls saw this and asked for the same. Momo obliged and made sure they were wearing them correctly. Die. Bakugo screamed as a massive explosion went off, sending the ball flying into the air. Die. Most of them thought at the same time. Aizawa showed them the screen with the distance. 705. 2M. This is the most rational way of teaching the foundations of being a hero. He told the class in his tired tone. You all have just 3 years to become heroes. He looked at each and every student. Do you have what it takes to make it all that time? All Might had been looking over the teaching roster to see who Melissa had for her homeroom teacher. It wasn't hard to find, and when he saw the name he swore and headed for the roof. But that is not fair. It's the first day of school and we have to do an assessment test. Mineta complained to the instructor. Life is unfair. Natural disasters, villain attacks, being outnumbered and outgunned. Your job as a hero is overcome any obstacle. Do you all have what it takes? Aizawa replied to the Mineta who cowered under that man's stern gaze. Give it everything you got or go home. Those are your choices. He gestured to the next area. Now the demonstration is over. Time is wasting. With that they dove into the test. As they were going through the first few sets on pairs for the 50-meter dash, a pink-haired girl made a comment that this was going to be fun. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 could tell that was the wrong thing to say to this teacher. Fun, you say? He gave the class a grin. How about this? The person that comes in last place will be expelled from the class. The class went silent with fear. Now let's get back to work. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was waiting for her tune when she heard a familiar voice humming a tune from behind her. She turned to see Izuku carrying a clipboard and was dressing his gym uniform as well. "Hey, it's Izuku," she said, getting her friend's attention. Izuku got closer and saw that his friends were looking in his direction. "I'll fill you guys in later," he said softly. He watched 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 give him a nod and repeat to Ochako and Momo. He walked over and gave 𝐂𝐮𝐸𝐸 a bow. "Sorry, Mr. Aizawa. The principal kept me longer than planned. I hope I am not too late to help." 𝐂𝐮𝐸𝐸 quirked an eyebrow at him. "Midoriya, glad you could join us. I wrote down the first few people that have gone. Please keep track of them until we are done. Then I will introduce you to the class." They had been having a silent conversation using 𝐂𝐮𝐸𝐸 personal hand signs. They decided to play it off as if they didn't know each other until later. "Yes, sir." Izuku filled out what had already been done, stood by the finish line. He glanced over to see Bakugo glaring in his direction. He ignored him and focused on the other students, making notes on the side for him to analyze later. They continued each event, documenting the results until they reached the last event, the ball throw. Bakugo had been accepted since his earlier throw. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had done okay, but her quirk was not very helpful with this. Momo made a cannon and launched it pretty far. Ochako got an infinity, but her quirk gave her a big edge. The last person to go was Melissa Shield. Izuku recognized her from a few press conferences her father had done years ago. She was almost as tall as Momo and was built similar. She was a bit more muscular and her hair had been cut to shoulder length. Izuku watched her push her sleeves back, revealing a pair of bracelets that unfolded and wrapped around her wrist, covering her hands and forearms. She then took a piece of paper out of her pocket and handed it to Aizawa. Aizawa read over it and let out an annoyed sigh. "Since Nizu approved it, I will allow it." He gestured for her to make her toss. She took a throwing stance and her hands sparked white lighting around her arm that ran up her arm. "Smash!" she cried as throwing the ball. She shook her hand with a pain grimace on her face. 801-9M. 𝐂𝐮𝐸𝐸 called out. "I was expecting better, but since it's the first day, I will let it slide." 𝐂𝐮𝐸𝐸 pointed at her hand. "Do you need to see the nurse?" "No, sir. Just really sore." Melissa replied, walking back into line, still stretching out her hand. She tapped the gauntlets and they transformed back down to bracelets. The class looked at her in pure awe of beating Bakugo toss, showing her strength. She was grateful for her prototype gauntlets had worked, but needed to be tweaked to prevent any more pain. Aizawa looked at the class. "Good, now that the class is done, I will Izuku tally the scores and I will announce them to see who is leaving the class." He looked past to see Vlad coming towards the field with Class 1B. "Hey Vlad, all done with your orientation?" He gave his fellow teacher a smirk. Yeah. "Since you decided to get their assessment done today, I decided that we should do the same." He gestured to his class, looking ready to go. "Also, I figured it would be easier to announce Izuku together." Aizawa nodded and Vlad turned so both classes could see him. "Now there will be a personal student of Principal Nizu that will be attending both Class 1A and 1B for heroics." Vlad pointed to Izuku, who had just handed Aizawa the scores for the assessment. "Izuku Midoryia will be acting as my assistant for 1B assessment. So everyone get ready to show me what you can do." "Why is he getting special treatment? Shouldn't he have to do an assessment as well?" Minoma asked, as much condescension in his tone as possible. There should be no special treatment for the principal's personal pet. He spat the last word out with as much venom as possible. This caused both classes to glare at the pompous boy in various looks of disgust and anger. Setsuno was about to slug him when a fellow classmate Ibra stopped her. Momo and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had to stop Ochako for sending the JRK to the moon. Aizawa shot his fellow teacher a look of disapproval of the boy's words. Vlad let out a tired sigh. "I'll just show you," Izuku said, moving towards the circle. "You guys might want to take a step back," Izuku said, reaching into his pocket and changing his morpher to the Mystic Morpher. "It's morphing time. Magical source. Mystic force. -2 to 3 Galwit Mr. Ranger. Green Mystic Ranger," Izuku called out. He gestured for his mentor to hand him a ball to toss. After catching the ball, he handed his clipboard over to him and quickly went over the results. While Izuku was getting set up, the rest of the classes were going nuts as they recognized him from the news recently. Several are discussing the different color of his current suit. Others were overjoyed that they were in class together with the hero from the news. Kyoka put her hearing protection back on, knowing he was going to do something big. Setsuna watched with a grin, knowing that they were about to see something wicked. Momo and Ochako were relieved to see their friends and prepared to cover their ears. "It's him, Toru," Mina whispered loudly. "I know Mina," Toru whispered back just as loudly. Off to the side, Mina and Toru recognized him as the guy that saved the both of them during the exams and went to battle the zero-pointers with giant robots. They had also seen him on the news with the tower rescue 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴, the people trapped, and the little girl, and the battle with the villain. They recognized 3 of their classmates and other heroes from the fight against that wanted villain. They wanted to find some time to thank the boy and maybe get to talk to him and his friends a bit. Bakugo was seething with rage as he watched that Deku walk around like he owned the place. He hadn't seen the freak since the entrance exams. He was furious that he was beat out for first place. He was sure that he'd chickened out or had been in the other class. Now he was special student to the principal. How someone like Deku could be picked over him? He is stronger, faster, and to top it off, he had a powerful quirk. When this was over, he was going to get his answers and put him back in his place under his foot. Izuku rolled his shoulder before he thought he had built up enough tension to have a little fun. He opened up his Mystic Morpher and typed in a spell code 1 to 0, enter. Mystic muscles. His torso stated to swell up with a ridiculous amount of muscles. When all was said and done, his upper body looked like a professional weight lighter with muscle upon muscle. "I hope I don't overdo it." He purposely flexed a few times over dramatically. Everyone looked at him with looks of complete shock of his power-up. They all blinked and a few even rubbed their eyes to make sure they were not seeing things. Holy Mother of God! Momo, Setsuna, Kyoka, and Ochako thought simultaneously. Izuku drew his arm back with the ball in hand. He threw it with a practiced precision. It caused a loud boom as it left his hand and went sailing through the air. A few students were almost blown off their feet and had to scramble to stay standing up. Kyoka was grateful for the hearing protection after seeing how hard his throw was. They waited for a few minutes until Aizawa showed them the screen. I was sure it was going to go further, but I gave it about semi-serious throw. Izuku shrugged with his massive shoulders. He let his muscles fade and then powered down and turned to see his fellow classmates. They just looked at him with stunned expressions on their faces. I think I broke the class, Mr. Aizawa." Aizawa let out a small sigh at his student antics, suppressing every instinct to smile. He watched as Vlad was laughing loudly at what just happened. "All right, enough gawking. It is time for your scores," Aizawa said before showing them the screen with their results. Momo Yaoyorozu-1 St Shoto Todoroki-2 Nd Katsuki Bakugo-3 RD Tenya Ida-4 Th Fumikage Tokoyami-5 Th Mizo Shoji-6 Th Mashireo Ojiro-7 Th Ijiro Kirishima-8 Th Mina Ashido-9 Th Achiko Uraraka-10 Th Koji Koda-11 Th Melissa Shield-12 Th Tsu Azui-13 Th Yuga Aoyama-14 Hantasiro-15 Denki Kaminari-16 Kyoka Jiro-17 Toru Hagakure-18 Hitoshi Shinso 19th Mineta Minoru-20 Mineta began to cry as he was the one in last place and was complaining on how it wasn't fair he hadn't even got to see the female students' costumes. The girls from both classes were glaring hard at the now no pervert. He was begging to any god that would hear him to let him stay. Oh, by the way, it was a logistical ruse to make you all perform better. No one is being expelled today. Aizawa's tone was flat and bored. He wanted to kick the little grape out, but he needed a good reason. He was sure the grape would slip up and he would be out the door. Now everyone from 1A clear the field for 1B to do their assessment. Aizawa was about to say something else when he saw Bakugo rush towards Izuku with rage in his eyes, screaming, "Deku-B!" Bakugo clenched fist as he got close. Aizawa let out a sigh and used his capture scarf to grab him and pull him towards, canceling out his quirk. "I saw that, Bakugo. I will give you your only warning: you try to harm another student like that again and I will guarantee your expulsion. Understood? Bakugo struggled for a bit before relenting and nodded his head yes. He was released and stormed off towards the locker room, sending hateful glares toward Izuku before ignoring him completely. Small explosions were popping in his hands. Kyoka got free and rushed to Izuku's side, who looked okay, but a little shaken. Hey, you okay? She asked, making sure he saw her movements before touching his shoulder. He let out a sigh before looking at Kyoka. Hey, I am here, Green Bean. Are you okay? Izuku nodded. Yeah, just caught me off guard with his aggression. His voice was a little shaky. He hadn't had a PTSD episode like that in a while. He regretted to let his old bully have any space in his head, but for the moment he was back to being on the ground surrounded by explosions. When he finally cleared his head, he looked up to see Momo, Ochako and Setsuna come over to check on him as well. After today is over, can you guys want to meet at the command center so I can fill you guys in what just happened? Sure, Izuku, that sounds fine with me, Momo said with a gently smile. She wanted to pull him into a hug, but resisted doing so in front of so many people. Sure, I'll be there, Ochako said, glaring in the direction of Bakugo. She was plotting on if anyone would notice her throw that JRK into the sun. Yeah, sounds cool. I'll message May to join us. Kyoka replies, gently rubbing his shoulder. We got to go, but we'll wait for you at the gate, Oklahoma. I am good with that too, Aizu, Setsuna said, worried about his shaken appearance. Okay, thanks, I really mean it. He gave them a real smile and headed off to assist Vlad for his class's assessment test. He focused on their quirks and times for each event, making sure to pay close attention to everyone evenly. The rest of 1B assessment went rather calm compared to how 1A assessment had ended. The scores were tallied up and Setsuna was able to place herself at first place, but a slim margin. He went back to Nizu and worked on a few projects of theirs together, and before he knew it was the end of the day. He messaged his mom about talking to his friends after school and promised he would be home before dark. After school was over, they went to a nearby alley and teleport to the command center. They were unsurprised to see May waiting nearby tinkering with some new gadget. He directed all of them to the kitchen area and told them to sit down. I wanted to tell you guys all at once, since with having class with Bakugo some things are going to come out, and I want you guys to let me get through this before I lose me courage with this. I watched as they all got looks of concern and worry on all 5 of their faces. It all started when I was 4 years old and I had just received my diagnosis as 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴. Izuku told them everything from age 4 up to everything that happened today at UA. Nizu logged out of his work computer for the day. The first day of class went well despite a few setbacks in his plans. He entered the small secret room he had finished recently. He stepped inside, looked small with one of Deku camera next to it. What did the analysis on the vile hulking used? Nizu asked, his hand behind his back as he walked back and forth. It was made by a known trigger ring that was recently taken down by Endeavor and his agency. Some of the shipment was already gone before the takedown. It also contained a variety of enhancers and genetic material from 8 different people not in any database. Nizu let out a tired sigh. Someone is trying to play God and using unknown people to test them on. Nizu hated people like that, and they had no clues work with was getting on his nerves. I did get a match from one sample in my Ranger database, Deku stated. There are a few others I am still trying to identify. Nizu's head snapped up. What was the match to? Nizu didn't like that there was a match to a system that was not of their dimension. The match is for an evil entity known as Dark Spectre. Deku's voice filled in the now silent room. Oh dear, was Nizu could think to say before leaning back into his chair, letting out a very tired sigh before picking up a file on his desk. I need to work quickly then. The command center was so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. Izuku had finished telling them about his past with Bakugo, including what had happened to lead him to get his morpher to meeting all of them. It was easier after having talked with Nemuri about recently, but it was still a bit emotional for him to relive it so soon. He watched the variety of emotions on their faces as he told his story. Horror at how he was treated most of his life from former classmates, teachers, and people in general. Anger at Bakugo for being Izuku's primary abuser, who was now their classmate, and him telling to take a swan dive. Sadness at him going through this alone with no friends for so many years. He had to talk them all down about retaliating against Bakugo, saying it wasn't worth it them getting in trouble or expelled over. Izuku watched as they all jumped up and pulled him into a group hug, nearly taking him to the ground. Izuku wasn't sure what to do with them crying. He barely understood women on a good day, and now he had 5 crying women in his arms. He tried to reassure them, but they held on to him that much tighter with his attempts. He waited for them to settle down before trying to talk anymore. Momo had composed herself first before asking, "How are you this kind to everyone if you were treated so poorly?" She was angry at herself to not see the signs that her friends had been mistreated by people so terribly for over a decade. She wanted to get her mother to eviscerate that school and those so-called teachers. Izuku shrugged the best he could. "I wanted to be a hero, and I knew that if I gave up or gave in to what they said about me, then I would have quit a long time ago." Izuku watched as they all looked up at him. There is a quote from a pre-Quirk movie, Balboa, that always stuck with me whenever I was on the edge of giving up. It's not about how hard you hit, it's about how you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. I just keep moving forward, I suppose. Izuku blushed at letting his nerdy side out like that. They all gave him a small smile at this adorable dork that quoted a move from so long ago that keep him going. They started to giggle a little as they started to feel better. Izuku smiled. "They're much better to see all your pretty smiles than to have such sad looks on your faces." Izuku realized what he just said and blushed as he tried to speak, but just stuttered incoherently. The girls all blinked a moment at his words and lightly blushed before looking at each other. They broke the hug and started to play rock, paper, scissors. Setsuna and Ochako won the first round and went into a second, for Setsuna was the winner. Ochako pouted as Setsuna grinned and moved towards Izuku. "This is for being such an amazing guy." Setsuna gently grabbed the sides of his face and pulled him into a kiss. Izuku saw fireworks as their lips touched. He froze at the action, not sure what to do with his hands. When the kiss ended, Izuku struggled to understand. Why? That was all he could get out as he was trying to process her kiss. "I like you, Izu, and I wanted to show you how much you mean to me to share you past." Setsuna blushed slightly. "You treat me like I am a person and not my last name. People are always try to date me for my family prestige, but you treat me like I am special for just being me and not as an object you want to obtain." She smiled at him. "You are not alone, remember that." She stepped back and gestured for Ochako to come forwards. Ochako came forward, her face red with a blush. She stepped close and gently placed his hands on her hips and put her arms around his neck and pulled him into a gentle kiss. Izuku was still a bit stiff at first, but relaxed slightly to her kiss. When she pulled back, she looked him in the eyes. "I like you too, Izuku. I felt something when you saved me at the exams. I watched how you are always so kind and say the sweetest things to make a girl feel special." Ochako moved a hand to gently cup his face. "Each time I was around you, I saw you treated me like a queen, and you encouraged my love for space, and you gave me a spaceship." She smiled, shy smile. "Setsuna is right, you are not alone anymore." Ochako stepped back and gestured for the next one. Mei had smug look. She walked over and pulled Izuku in a short, intense kiss. "I have been wanting to do that again since our first one." Mei pulled back, fidgeting with her hands. "You have been so patient with me since the first day we met, and you are always looking out for me. I wasn't sure what I was feeling, but when I kissed you that first time it was magical, and I knew that I like you." Mei hugged him tightly. "I will always be someone you can count on for you, Zuzu." She moved away as Momo stepped forward. "I felt similar to Setsuna. I was treated like a trophy that rich heirs wanted to place on their mantle for bragging rights. You talked with me about quirks, history, and even literature, and you always seemed interested in what I had to say." Momo placed his hand on her hips and gently wrapped her arms around his neck. "You saw me as Momo and treated me like I was valued for my mind and personality rather than my looks or money. Thank you, Izuku." She kissed him and pulled him close to deepen it. When she pulled back, she gave him a wink. "I like you, Izuku. I am just a call away if you ever need me." She added an extra sway in her hips as she walked away. Izuku couldn't help but watch her walk away. Momo moved to join the other girls and Kyoko walked forward. She was doing her nervous tick of tapping her ear jacks together and stopped in front of him. She took a deep breath before speaking. I thought you were cute when I first met you, and when you call me Queen of Rock it made me feel special. Kyoko seemed to be losing confidence as she took another steady breath. I know I don't much to offer you in the way physical beauty as the other girls dash. She was cut off when Izuku kissed her and gently pulled her close. She was startled at first, but quickly melted into his kiss and warm embrace. Izuku broke the kiss and looked her in the eyes. Kyoko, you are appealing in your own way. You have amazing legs and you are appealing to me. Izuku's face was a bright red. Each girl has their own ways they are appealing, and your voice is beyond appealing. Your passion for music is what makes you special. Green bean. Kyoko said softly as she hugged him tight. For years she had always been overlooked for her body look to others. His words made her feel special. This is why I like you so much. She hung on to him for a few minutes until she calmed down. She left their embrace and rejoined the other girls. Izuku took a moment to collect himself. I can't tell you how much you mean to me. I want to accept all you're feeling, but I don't want to hurt any of you if I have to choose one of you. Unique and appealing in your own ways. Izuku was torn with possibly hurting his friends with choosing one over another. Then don't choose. Setsuna said, making him look up in surprise. We discussed it at length during our girls' night and we decided that we all care for you. Ochako said, tapping her index fingers together. We decided that we could all share you. Mei said excitedly. We decided that we wanted to stand by you through everything that comes our way. Momo stated, holding out a hand towards him. If you are willing to accept us. Kyoko said, still flustered enough her jacks were moving somewhat erratically. Izuku looked at each one of them and was trying to process that they want to be with him. He wasn't sure what to do. He remembered what Namuri had told him about taking it slow and see where it goes. He was scared to open his heart again to have it be broken again. He wasn't sure what to do when he felt a hand touch his shoulder. He focused back the girls in front of him. He saw that Setsuna had detached her hand to get his attention. Hey, we plan to take this slow with dates and let everything take its course. She reattached her hand and they all moved forward to Izuku. They all nodded at this, waited for him to respond. I agree. Izuku said in a soft tone. If we are going to do this, we need make communication important and to make sure no one feels left out or hurt one of you. Izuku took a deep breath and took a leap of faith in them. I'm not sure how to date anyone. No one has ever wanted me before. Well, learn together, Izuku. Ochako said, pulling him towards them. He felt them all hug him as a group. This feel really nice. Izuku thought to himself as they stay together like that for a bit. He felt at peace for the first time in a long time. The impromptu confession and hug session came to an end as it was getting late and the need to get home. Each of them gave him a kiss and said they would see him tomorrow. Izuku felt lighter as he walked home after telling them about his past and that he now had girlfriends. He was unsure how his mother was going to react to it. He hoped he would put off that conversation for a few days. He reached the apartment and walked in, and when he took off his shoes he noticed his sister's shoes were by the door. He immediately had a bad feeling starting to form in his stomach. He kicked off his shoes to see them sitting with his mom at the kitchen table with a laptop in front of them and 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼 bouncing with excitement beside her. He was curious as to what they were watching when he heard the audio coming from it. Well, learn together, Izuku. He froze as he recognized Ochako's voice and those exact words. He watched as his mother looked up to see him standing there. Well, Izuku, I see you have something you want to tell us. She gestured to the computer in front of her. His sisters were all sporting predatory grins at his girlfriend's confessions. Before he could say anything, 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼 spoke first. Yeah, I got 5 mamas. She started dancing with joy around the table before rushing to hug him. Thank you, Papa. It was going to be a long night. Izuku face palmed, betrayed by his own computer assistant. It turns out his mother was concerned about what he was going to tell his friends and asked Deku to send her video of what they talked about. She had called his sisters to watch to make sure they could get there as he got uncomfortable. So they watched as the girls reacted to his past. watched them comfort him, and then watched in stunned silence as they each confessed and kissed him. 𝗏𝗡𝐿 had come into the room during the kissing and was ecstatic about getting a mama, or in her case 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 held out her hand as her daughters handed her money as she had won the bet on who her son would end up with. She was happy for her son taking the brave step and was ready to give him a gentle lecture on how they were to be treated as queens and that he had to bring them over soon for a family dinner. Izuku was a little surprised they were betting on his love life or that they were betting against their mother. She usually won. His sisters were happy for him, but they now had something new to tease him about and they were not afraid to embarrass him about it either. You gave him dating advice on certain restaurants that would be good for each of the girls. Ryukyu suggested some changes to his clothing when hanging around them. Rumi teased him about being a Casanova and wondered when the first wedding was. Nemuri went on about youth and passion with their confession and hugged him close, telling him she was proud of him. They made a comment about showing them his baby pictures when they came over. Izuku bowed his head knowing that there was nothing he could do to prevent it. He was sure if they tried to stop them then Nemuri would show them to her art class as a lesson. Izuku thanked his lucky stars he didn't have to get the talk for the third time. He was not sure if he could have survived it right now. Especially since he was sure Nemuri would be going into greater detail now that he was no longer single. Since 𝗏𝗡𝐿 was already wound up with getting news, he decided it was a good time to show her the file Nizu had given to his mother. "Hey 𝗏𝗡𝐿, come here for a minute please," Izuku asked as he grabbed the file off the counter. The young girl rushed over as he held the file out for her to see. "Grandma 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 got this today." Izuku ruffled her hair a bit as she leaned into his hand slightly. "This makes it official that as of today you are 𝗏𝗡𝐿 Midoryia." Izuku smiled brightly as he watched her eyes sparkling with joy and rushed forward to hug him with everything she had. "Welcome to the family." Izuku looked up to see the rest of his family as getting teary-eyed at the scene in front of them. This reignited a debate on who was going to be the cool aunt between his sisters. "Thank you, Papa," 𝗏𝗡𝐿 said as she held him tight. "I don't have any gifts for you to say thank you." Izuku held her tighter. "The greatest gift in this entire world is having you for a daughter." Izuku kissed the top of her head as she cried tears of joy at his words. 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 took many pictures of them and made sure to send his a few copies. The rest of the evening was an impromptu party. 𝗏𝗡𝐿 was so happy it took her quite a while to get her settled down and into her bed. Officially his mother was listed as her guardian, but she called Izuku her papa. No one really wanted to correct her or tell her anything different. This had been the cherry on top for the young girl as she was now 𝗏𝗡𝐿 Midoryia. It was one of his best days on both of their lives. He ran through a shower and laid down on his bed before sending them messages. "UA friend chat Green Bunny Izuku. So my mother and sister got a video from Deku with your confessions and kissing me. She is thrilled by the way and be prepared for a family dinner soon. My mother was very insistent on that. 𝗏𝗏𝐿, what? She knows. I will need to have chat with Deku about privacy gravity girl Ochako, family dinner with you mom and sisters. That does sound like fun." Green Bunny Izuku. "Yes, and I heard she was calling you parents to get together and talk about this, so run while you can. I have a bad feeling about this." 𝗏𝗏𝐿. "Thanks for the heads up Izuku. I will head to my room early then to avoid my mother as long as possible." Rock Goddess 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. "Sigh dad is going to be a pain, I just know it. Thanks for the warning. Dino girl. Setsuna. 𝐼𝐶, you are awesome to give us a heads up. I am going to my room early as well and leave early in the morning too. 𝗏𝗏𝐿. Oh no. 𝗏𝗏𝐿. Mom walked in with that DVD case. Help Zuzu. I have already been through this. I was behaving." Green Bunny Izuku. "Oh no. Run May run." 𝗏𝗏𝐿. "Sorry May will be off for the night, this is her mother by the way, 𝗏𝗏𝐿 has gone offline." Rock Goddess 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. "What case? Why does she sound so terrified?" Green Bunny Izuku. JPEG Green Bunny Izuku. "If you see this then run, it's the talk on DVD. I had to sit through it twice with my mother and sisters. Gravity girl Ochako. What 𝗏𝗏𝐿. 𝗏𝗏𝐿. Nope, I am going to make a run for it. I have enough pocket money for a room somewhere." Rock Goddess 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. "Same. Anyway I would be able to convince let me stay over with you Momo." Dino girl Setsuna. "Ditto, oh no. Dino Girl 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐻. Hello 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐻 will be away for the evening. Dad, Dino Girl 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐻 has gone offline. Gravity Girl 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, we're dropping like flies. Forge Momo, don't panic, we can run 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Kyoka. Forge Momo, hey, this is Mona. Momo will be free to chat at school tomorrow by Forge Momo, has gone offline. Gravity Girl 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Izuku, I'm scared. Green Bunny Izuku, I know 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. I am here for you. I am here for you too, Kyoka. Gravity Girl 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Maybe mom and dad are too busy to. Gravity Girl 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. And all. Save me, Izuku. Gravity Girl 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Hello Izuku, she will be free tomorrow, mom and dad. Gravity Girl 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 has gone offline. Rock Goddess Kyoka. Oh God, I am the last one, I'm trying to get out of here. Green Bunny Izuku, how can I help? Rock Goddess Kyoka, just pray for me. I think I can. No. Rock Goddess Kyoka. My, I wondered what got her on edge before I could ambush her. She will be free to talk in the morning. By Izuku. Mom, Rock Goddess Kyoka has gone offline. Izuku laid his phone down and sighed. Tomorrow is going to be so awkward for all of them. He put his phone on the charger and tried to get some rest. He hoped they would not hate him for this in the morning. Elsewhere, his girlfriends were being given the talk with a DVD they gotten with the suggestion from Inko. The girls were red in the face before it really even started and begged for mercy when their parents hit the button play. Each one received a bit of additional information specific to them, much to their growing horror at this experience for all of them. The next day, Izuku met up with them and begged for their forgiveness of what his mother brought down upon them. They didn't blame him, but they were having a hard time looking him in the eye. They congratulated him on the paperwork going through for Raphtalia to be adopted into the family. Kyoka and 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐻 teased him about being Papa Izuku now. Izuku blushed at this, but smiled as he showed them pictures from last night. Mei gave him a quick kiss and darted off to the support class carrying Deku Fox in her arms. 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐻 did the same before rushing off to 1B, blushing the entire way to classroom. Izuku walked to class with his other 3 girlfriends towards their class. Before they reached the class, they went into an empty classroom and each gave him a kiss before heading to 1A. Today, Izuku had homeroom with 1A and would be in 1B homeroom class tomorrow. This flipped every other day unless there was a special event. The day turned into a normal school day. They had English with present Mike, math with ectoplasm. The class before lunch was art history with Midnight. Izuku was hoping she would treat him like any other student, but that went out the window the moment he came into the room. Izuku, come give your big sister a hug. She then proceeded to hug him to her chest and treat him like a teddy bear. When class started, she let him go and sent him to his desk. Izuku was completely embarrassed by her antics. It got worse when she put up a picture of his rescue of 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and him carrying her princess style to safety. Izuku flushed a darker red and 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 started blushing red at this photo. She accidentally activated her quirk and started to float away until Kyoka and Momo helped pull her down to her chair. He was asked by several students if they were related. Izuku attempted to deflect those questions as best as possible, but Midnight just said they were siblings, causing him to get funny looks from his male classmates minus Bakugo, Ida, and Todoroki. Afterwards it was lunchtime and they were all starving. They got an amazing meal from Lunch Rush and Momo had to drag Izuku away before he held up the line to ask questions. They were about to talk about their experience last night with their parents when several more people approached the table with trays in hand. Mina Ishido, Eijiro Kirishima, Fumikage Tokoyami, and Toru Hagakure. Hey, is it okay if we join you guys? Mina asked, gesturing for the table with her chin. Izuku and the others shared a look before nodding to have them join. After everyone got introduced and started to relax into pleasant conversation. So I wanted to thank you for saving me and Toru during the entrances exam. Mina gestured to her invisible friend. We never got a chance to thank you and then we see that you're a real hero on TV twice. Mina said as she got excited talking about it. Yeah, that save at the tower with empty lady was beyond manly, Mido bro. Kirishima grinned, flexing his arm to prove his point. Your quirk is badass, man. He flashed Izuku a big, toothy grin. Izuku's face fell slightly. Well, thank you for that, both of you, but I don't have a quirk, I am quirkless. Izuku watched the surprised look on their faces. I use a type of support item to help me save people. He pulled the Master Morpher out of his pocket to show them, that making it even more impressive then. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 said as he set down his utensils, "It seems there is more to you than it seems, Midoryia." A shadow-like bird appeared out of his back and nodded in agreement to 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. "I agree, that is amazing, and you looked so cool during the exams and during the rescue with 𝗀𝗡𝐿ady," Toru said as she waved her arm to emphasize her excitement. Izuku smiled a bit as he felt Momo gently elbowed him to get him to cheer up. They went into talking about different hobbies, and Izuku went into mumble mode, taking out his notebook and asked about them about their quirks. Kyoka had to tap him a few times, get him to not spiral too far. He thanked her and apologized to them about his mumbling. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Kirishima both waved it off with a smirk at his antics. Mina and Toru cooed, saying he was like an adorable bunny when he got embarrassed. This caused Izuku to flush red, and his girlfriends all had an eye twitch at this, but agreed he looked like that at times. Halfway through lunch, more people joined the table. Hitoshi Shinso and Denki Kaminari came over to join the table since it looked like fun. Kirishima joked that they helped balance out the table to make it even. Everyone seemed to be having fun at the table and got to know each other a bit better. Mina got everyone contact information with a promise to create a chat group for them. When Izuku asked them about their quirks, Kaminari told his easy, but Hitoshi hesitated before telling them. "My quirk is called brainwashing. If someone answer me, then I put them in a kind of trance that let me tell them what to do until I end it, or if they are injured, cancelled out my request." Hitoshi waited for the usual comments about how villainous it was. "Oh, that is so cool," Izuku exclaimed excitedly. "You can help in so many ways, from ending hostage situations to tricking villains to surrender." Izuku spun off into another mutter spree about the versatility of his quirk in various heroic operation that he was stunned for a moment. "You don't think it's villainous?" Hitoshi asked cautiously to Izuku. He had only received positive feedback from his girlfriend up until now. This was a new experience for him. Izuku gave him a really confused look. "Quirks are not heroic or villainous. They are just quirks, abilities people are born with. People who wield them can be heroes or villains depending on how they use them." Other people at the table agreed with his statement and also agreed that Hitoshi quirk did not seem villainous to them. "Thank you, Izuku," Hitoshi replied with a smile before going back to his lunch. He definitely wanted to hang out with sometime. He thought he should introduce Izuku to his girlfriend with his thoughts on quirks. She could use some new supportive friends. The table went back into pleasant conversations about what they thought of school so far and what was going to happen in the afternoon class. They just hoped there was no risk of being expelled during their afternoon class. They still did not know who their instructor was. After their relaxing lunch, it was time for their first foundational heroics studies class. Everyone was wondering what they were going to do and wondering who their instructor was. Izuku hung back with his friends and talked about their different plans for the weekend. "I am coming through door like a normal person," All Might said as he walked in the door, cape flapping in a non-existent breeze. "It's All Might." Kirishima and Kaminari were both geeking out over having All Might as a teacher. "Cool Silver Age costume," Tsuyu stated. Melissa let out a tired sigh at his antics. "Really? You have to go over the top again," she thought to herself. "Maybe I need to call Gran to make him stop." She watched as her uncle shivered slightly as if he read her thoughts. Izuku went stiff at seeing All Might. He had not seen the man since that day on the roof, and now he was going to see him regularly at UA. He wasn't sure how to handle this. He was still mentally panicking when he felt someone grasp his hand. He looked to see Momo had subtly grasped his hand in a show of support. Ochako and Kyoka had moved a little closer to help him. He gave them an appreciate smile. They all separated before anyone noticed their actions. We will be jumping right into it today with a trial all heroes must go through in their careers as heroes. All Might took out a card, revealed it with the works, battle training. Bakugo had a feral grin at this with excitement of fighting these extras. He flexed his hands and makes several small pops in rapid succession. Finally, my time to shine, Bakugo thought to himself. He was not going to get beaten in combat by any of these extras. Especially Deku. Izuku, Momo, Ochako, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 blinked in surprise. Real fighting on the first class. They had expected a class on the basics, but apparently All Might wanted to jump into it feet first. Melissa sighed at his antics, making a note to really call Gran to make him stop. But one of the keys of being a hero is looking good. While pointing at a wall. The wall opened to reveal 20 slots holding their costumes. These were designed based on your quirk registration forms and the request you set in before the school started. All Might explained to the class, "Get yourselves suited up and then meet me up at Training Ground Beta." The most of the class cheered and rushed to grab their cases. As the group thinned out, Ochako noticed that Izuku didn't have a case. "Where is your case, Izuku?" Ochako asked, hoping it was sitting somewhere else since they didn't have enough slots. Izuku gave her a sad smile. "Since I am quirkless, I don't get funding for a suit, but May should have it ready for me." Izuku saw them frown at that. "I know it's not right, but I have one and need to go get it. I will meet you at Training Ground Beta." They grumbled and grabbed their cases to get changed. Izuku headed off to the support lab for his suit. All Might watched the boy walk away to get his suit. "Sorry kid, I wish things were different and your case was here with the rest of the class," he thought as he headed to the training ground to wait for the class and maybe get a few minutes to spare on his time limit. He was still trying to find time to apologize to him, and he needed to do it soon before Melissa find out he had been putting it off again. He was unsure how to apologize to someone he had shattered his dreams with his thoughtless words. Izuku knew the way to the support class and texted May he was on the way for his suit. He reached the door when it opened with May holding his case. "Here you go, Zuzu, all set and ready to go," May exclaimed as she shut the door behind him and held out his case for inspection. She was beaming with pride at her hard work. "I must say that May put a lot of her best work into your costume and equipment." Deku Fox chimed in next to her feet. May blushed slightly at her companion's words. Izuku opened it up and smiled at her hard work. "May, you are truly a wonderful genius. Thank you for all this hard work you put into it." He took his case and pulled her into a kiss. May squeaked in surprise, but returned the kiss. She blushed dark red at his bold actions. "Go before you are late for class." May hurried back into her class, slightly flustered with a smile on her face, Deku Fox right behind her. Izuku chuckled and ran for the locker room to get changed to make sure he would make it to the training ground on time. The class had arrived at Training Ground Beta all decked out in their costumes. Ochako and 𝐀𝐭𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had minor modifications to their designs prior to the start of school thanks to the help of Izuku and Nomiuri looking over their designs along with May to make the improvements. Ochako helmet visor had been updated with heads-up display for important information. The rest of her costume remained unchanged. She had been a bit concerned about it being skin-tight, but when Momo pointed out it may help with her nausea, she stopped worrying about it. 𝐀𝐭𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 pointed out Izuku might enjoy her skin-tight suit. That caused her to blush and hoped that he liked it, then still looking a bit self-conscious about it. 𝐀𝐭𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had a slight change to her suit materials, giving her a bit more protection to her rocker outfit without changing her style too much. She also had a visor tinted a yellow gold added to her costume for the same reason as Ochako. Momo had been the biggest change from her initial design that after one look from Izuku and Nomiuri scrapped it and did a complete redesign. She had red full-body suit that was similar to Nomiuri that allowed for her to keep her skin covered and it would tear for when she had to make something, but it was self-repairing and close said tear back to normal. She also had a computer on her forearm to replace her book in her original design. She also got a red tinted visor that connected to her computer for when her hands were occupied in the field. She covered herself with a white sleeveless trench coat with pockets on the inside. Her last piece was a black belt with a few support items from May. They were about to start when Izuku waked in hero suit. He had his hair in his loose ponytail and his eyes were covered with a pair of sci-fi-looking visor sunglasses tinted silver. He wore a modified gray SPD style uniform with green accents and gold trim. Instead of the silver SPD logos, he had the Dragon Power Coin logo on his chest, both shoulders and back. Around his shoulders was a green capture scarf similar to their homeroom teacher. As his waist was a belt with a few pouches, knife, and Master Morpher resting in the center. Finally, he finished with a pair of black and green steel-toed boots. His girlfriends came over and gave him a nod of approval. Remind me to thank Mei when I see her next. She did an amazing job on your hero costume. Momo said, looking over his suit. It looked comfortable and didn't impede his movements with his fighting style. Izuku smiled. I can do that. I think I may need to cut my hair since it's getting too long. He emphasized his point. He flipped his hair hanging out of the hair tie. Thinking maybe a buzz cut. He wondered what he would look like with really short hair. Momo, Kyoka, and Ochako thought for a moment about how he would look, but all stated unanimously. Nope, not allowed. Izuku's shoulders slumped in a dramatic way, but he agreed with them. You costumes are really well done and you guys look amazing in them. Izuku said, looking them over as they flushed a little as his praise of them. His new friends made their way over as Kirishima was about being manly and with his quirk made up for his exposed chest and face. He said his suit was inspired by an old hero 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and his own spin on it. Hitoshi's suit made him do a double take as he was almost a clone of his mentor. He wore a dark purple almost black long coat and breathes. He wore a gray capture scarf around his shoulder like Izuku had done. 𝐶𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 arrived wearing a basic black cloak that covered most of his body. Both had said they based their suits off several underground heroes they had been able to find. Mina made him flush a little bit as her suit was very bright. She wore custom tan and purple calf-high boots. She wore a skin-tight purple and turquoise bodysuit ending just above her chest. Over this, she wore a cropped, sleeveless, tan-colored waistcoat with white fur along its collar. Around her eyes was a white domino mask that made her black mascara and gold eyes stand out more. He noted that it reflected her personality of being vibrant and colorful. Izuku looked over at Toru flushing a dark red before taking off his visor and looking up at the sky as in something had just appeared for him to look at. This confused everyone until Momo looked over to see the problem. All four of them had visor made by Mei, which included a bit of ranger tech that she came across with all of her tinkering with gadgets. It allowed for anyone with one of her visors to see anyone that was invisible. Toru's costume was made up of shoes and gloves. Izuku had gotten a full view of Toru's unclothed body. Hey, what's wrong, Izuku? Toru asked, oblivious to what was wrong. You look really embarrassed. It's fine, no one can see me, so you don't have to look away. She was sure that got him so worked up being such a nice guy that he was. Her lack of modesty at times seemed to make people uncomfortable at times. Mina looked confused until she took the visor from his hand and slid them on and froze. She said gently before taking them off, a little flustered herself. He embarrassed since his visor let him see you completely. She had said it softly not to alert the purple class pervert. The other guys in the group looked a bit uncomfortable at this revelation and subtly looked away not to make her uncomfortable at being seen. Toru had completely froze where she stood. She saw me. She couldn't finish that sentence. She had been seen herself since she was 4 years old and her quirk activated, turning her invisible. She was sure no one would ever be able to tell her what she looked like. Izuku, can you visor take a picture? Izuku felt uncomfortable at this question, but answered anyway. Yes, it has that function installed, but I swear as soon as I got a glimpse of you I looked away. I swear. He added that last part quickly. Mei had added that feature it in case he needed to get a picture of a villain fleeing or if he needed to take a picture of something when the area was not safe or at risk of being destroyed. Can you show Mina how to do that, please? Toru's tone was almost desperate. I am not mad since you didn't do it on purpose, but I want to see what I look like, please. Izuku nodded and showed Mina how to take a picture and then handed her his phone and unlocked as a message icon arrived. Click on that icon and you can forward it to any number you type in. He walked her through it, making sure that he couldn't see the image. After it was sent, he turned the phone to Toru. Here, this is the only copy on my phone. Click the delete button and then you have the only one. Toru hand tapped the button and handed the phone back to him. Thank you for being such a gentleman with this whole thing. Please call me Toru. She-hand took a praying pose as she spoke. No problem. You can call me Izuku then. He extended a hand towards her and she took it with both hands. Promise me after class today you come with me to talk with my friend Mei in the support course to get you a real costume. He was worried about her getting her hurt or sick from the lack of clothing to protect. Okay, deal, Izuku. She moved to stand behind Mina. Toru was waiting for him to put his visor back on, but when he took it back from Mina, he just put them in his pocket. She smiled knowing that no one could see it. He was being respectful of her and not many guys would have done that. Before anything more could be said, All Might spoke up to get the class attention as he gestured to a small screen on the wall. Most of the villain fights you see on the news take place outside. However, statistically speaking, run-ins with the most dastardly evildoers take place indoors. Think about it: backroom deals, home invasions, secret underground lairs. Truly intelligent villains stay hidden in the shadows. The screen showing images of actual locations to give them a bit of understanding. With this training exercise, you'll be split into teams of good guys and bad guys, and fighting 2-on-2 indoor battles. Tfuyu raised her hand to ask, "Isn't this a little advanced for our first class?" Several students nodded their head along with her question. All Might smiled big as he replied, "The best training is what you get on the battlefield." He struck a pose with his fists on his hips. He was then swamped by several students trying to ask him question at the same time. "Easy now, I don't have super hearing. And I was not done talking yet." He pulled a piece of paper from a pouch. "He has a script." Izuku looked surprised at the man. Several other students had the same reaction to this. Melissa just face-palmed at his antics, having to suppress a sigh. The situation is this. The villains have hidden a nuclear missile in their hideout. The heroes must have to foil their plans. The good guys have to catch the evildoers or recover the weapon. Likewise, the bad guys succeed if they protect their payload or capture the heroes. That was shown like an old-school video game. All Might finished talking as they watched the simple animation. He reached down and picked up 2 boxes. "We will draw lots for partners." There was some initial grumbling at this until Momo spoke up. "This is accurate in real life. There will be times you work with a hero you are unfamiliar with and have to find a way to defeat the villain." She was sure that was the lesson this lesson was about. At least she hoped anyway. "Well said, Miss Yaoyorozu. I can see why you are a recommended student. This happened more often than you think, meeting someone in the field and having to adapt on the spot." All Might gestured for them to come forward. "Now time to draw lots." Yuga Aoyama and Melissa Shield Team A, Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida Team D, Shoto Todoroki and Mizo Shoji Team B, Masahiro Ojiro and Mineta Minoru Team I, Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Azui Team H, Ijiro Kirishima and Hantasiro Team J, Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jiro Team G, Momo Yaoyorozu and Ochako Uraraka Team C, Tor Hagakuri and Mina Ashido Team E, Hitoshi Shinso and Koji Koda Team F. "Hey, Midoriya doesn't have a partner yet," Kirishima called out as everyone got with their partners. Everyone looked to see they had an odd number of students. "Oh right." He grabbed the box again and asked Izuku to come forward. Izuku drew the sphere with the letter E. "Woot, we get the Midoriya." Mina and Toru exclaimed as they cheered as well for their luck of the draw. Izuku moved to join them and sent an apologetic look to his girlfriends. They had a small look of disappointment on their face, but that was just the luck of the draw. He gave them a worried look, but they gave him a smile and gestured they were okay. Now that is settled, it is time to draw for heroes and villains. All Might said he drew 2 spheres, Team E is the heroes and Team D is the villains. Izuku and Bakugo looked surprised and looked at each other. Izuku had a look of surprise, having mixed emotion of facing his former friend, and Bakugo had a feral grin glaring at him and started to growl at Izuku, itching to fight. Ochako, Momo, and Kyoka were horrified that he had to face his bully in a brawl. They could see that Bakugo looked way too happy to fight against Izuku. They wanted to protest, but All Might stopped them by tapping a wall. "Villains, head on and you have 10 minutes plan and set up your lair. Also, I will be monitoring the fight, and if I tell you to stop, you stop." All Might gave them a serious look. Bakugo and Ida went in towards the building. All Might tapped button on the wall and it opened to a massive theater-like room with rows of chairs and a large screen and speakers. All Might was surprised at the change up from the old monitor and no chairs. He heard Nizu had recently updated all the rooms within the last few months or so. This was more a theater than an observation room. The chairs were large to accommodate students in their costumes, and the screen was large enough for everyone to see easily. Izuku gave his girls a wave as he followed teammates out to their waiting area for them to start planning. They reached the marked area and he took out a notepad and a pen. Okay, let's go over everything we know and make a plan. Sound good to you guys? Mina nodded and cracked her knuckles. Sounds like a plan to me. Call me Mina. Izuku nodded at her. Okay, then call me Izuku. Toru moved closer and gestured for the building. So what is the plan, Izuku? Izuku looked at the building and thought over all of their quirks. I think I have a plan. He gestured for them to move forward. They moved close to listen to his plan, and when they heard his plan details they couldn't help but grin. Ochako found a seat in between Momo and Kyoka as the screen turned on and was split screen showing both teams getting ready. She kept wringing her hands as the tension was starting to get to her. She felt Momo and Kyoka grab a hand to help keep calm as well. They were not happy about this matchup. They just hoped it would be a quick win for Izuku. They did not like this feeling. They had faith in him to win, but this uneasy feeling was making them all tense. Their worrying was interrupted when the door opened and a large group of people walked into the room. Vlad walked in with Class 1B. Setsuna made a straight shot over to them and joined in free seat next to Momo. The rest of her class found available seats. Behind them was Aizawa, Midnight and Nizu walking and heading over to All Might. All Might, I thought that we might join you to watch your first class along with 1B as a chance for the two classes to learn together. Nizu said, gesturing to Class 1B getting seated. I was curious as to how your first class will go. All Might was a bit surprised to see Nizu here in the class, but thought it was just to keep tabs on him as a new teacher. Sounds like a great idea, sir. The first match will be starting shortly if you want to find a seat. He gave them a short description of what their objectives were for this exercise. Nizu nodded in agreement. Okay, I am just waiting on the last of our guests to arrive. Nizu checked his watch. They should arrive any minute now. All Might was curious as to who else was going to arrive when the last group walked in the door. In walked Ryukyu, Miruko, Lady, a green-hair woman and a small girl. He was surprised to see 3 pro heroines not affiliated with the school. His eyes linked the woman with green hair. She is gorgeous, he thought to himself. Right on time, everyone. The first match is about to begin. Nizu smiled and gestured to some nearby seats for the staff. Oh, I forgot, All Might, this is Izuku Midoryia, one of our nurses here at UA that assists recovery girl. He gave the All Might a small grin. All Might straightened up as he heard her last name. Midoryia, as in dash. He almost flinched at her cold expression she gave him. Oh, that is not good. He had faced villains that were not as scary as her. It made him want to flinch away in fear. Izuku Midoryia is my son. She led the small girl away toward the seating area. The other 3 that came in with her followed her to sit together. Inko was about to put the small girl beside her when she ran off to sit with Izuku girlfriends. Suna. Raphtalia shouted as she reached her. Setsuna scooped the girl up to her delight. Hey kiddo, you being good for Inko today? Setsuna hugged her close, causing Raphtalia to giggle with joy. I got all my schoolwork done and got to play a few games with Auntie. Raphtalia said, her tail swishing with excitement as she recounted her day to Setsuna with excitement. Setsuna smiled. That is great, now you get hang with us while we watch heroes train. She watched Raphtalia's eyes start to sparkle at this and got comfortable on her lap. Setsuna felt someone tap her on the shoulder. She turned her head to see a few of her classmates looking at her funny. A Setsuna, who is the girl? Her classmate Itsuka Kendo asked out of curiosity. Several of her classmates seemed to be interested in the knowing as well. Setsuna laughed a bit awkwardly. This is Raphtalia Midoryia and I know her through my friend Izuku. She was not wanting to oust him as her father figure or that she was dating him just yet. The others were worried about this as well since they were wanting to fly under the radar for a bit longer. Itsuka nodded at this. Oh, so his little sister came with his mother to watch. That was kind of her. She waved at the young girl. Raphtalia was a little shy but she waved back. Kendo gave her a smile and moved back a bit to see if she became a little less shy. When it worked, she made sure to remember that for the future. Hey, I recognize her. She was the little that got saved by the guy in the red suit and the giant machines. 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗃 exclaimed. Class 1A looked to see that they had their own Kirishima. It was super manly the way he saved her. He was excited and everyone else seemed to make the connections. Raphtalia huddled close to Setsuna as the noise grew and she shot them a stern look to make them settle down before returning to reassure the girl. Kyoka helped as well to calm her down as her jacks were up and ready to strike anyone who tried to do anything more to upset her. When he uses a suit he is called a Power Ranger. Kyoka informed her sister class. Just like us. She gestured to her Dino Morpher on her wrist. Everyone looked at with awe and made the connection to her and the rest of them right away from the recent news reports. Before anyone else could ask questions, All Might cleared his throat. Now the match will start in a few minutes. The objective is for the hero team to capture the device or the villains to win, or the villains have to hold them off for 15 minutes or defeat the heroes to win. The villains were given time to set up their base and plant the device anywhere. All Might gestured to the monitors, showing the villain team standing in front of the device as the hero team was finishing up a plan session. Exercise begin. Wait, Izu is facing off against Bakugo. Setsuna asked, looking startled at seeing him on the screen, and looked at Inko full on concern. She looked at the other girls who shared her concerns. Nizu looked at All Might. How did you do pairing for today? He knew this was going to be a bad matchup in more ways than one. Like life, it was a random draw. Midoriya was the odd man out and drew for his placement with young Ishido and young Hagakure. He was confused at the looks of concern on the face of the principal and anger on his fellow teachers and pro-heroes. Is something wrong? Shoyuta suppressed a sigh as he looked at All Might. There is a bad history between Bakugo and Midoriya. It was noted in their files not to be allowed on the same team of face-off against the other. Shoyuta and Midnight made sure that it was well documented, placed in both of their files as a precaution to prevent this. All Might looked a bit nervous. Oh. He had not had a chance to read any of the student files since he was so far behind with getting his agency shut down and moved on campus. Miruko looked angry. Is that all you can say? She snarled at him. Ryukyu and Lady had stopped her from getting up from her seat near Inko. Inko gave him a disapproving look. She felt Midnight pat her hand in support. Niza decided to stop this before it escalated any more. I will allow this to continue for now, but if it comes down to it we will stop the exercise and restart the matches if needed. Those close to Izuku weren't happy, but there was at least a plan in place if needed. So the principal's pet gets special treatment. Why am I not surprised? Nito complained loudly for everyone to hear. He smirked at his rival class as they glared angrily at him. This should prove that he does not belong in this school. Many of the other people from 1B gave him a dirty look at his words. 1A looked ready to jump him if he kept running his mouth about their classmate. Momo and Kyoka kept a grip on Ochako, who was ready to knock him down a peg or three. Monoma, shut up. Vlad said shortly to the boy. It was only day 2 and he was already at his wits' end with dealing with the boy. Anything more from you like that and you will have another detention. Nito crossed his arms with a scowl, but kept his mouth shut. He was given a detention the day before for bad-mouthing Izuku during their assessment. He was going to talk to his uncle to make sure these people knew their place. Looks like they are on the move. Nizu said, gesturing for the others to watch the screen. He hit a button and audio filled the room. Nizu and several people noticed that Izuku's golden morpher was no longer on his belt. Izuku and Mina had been making their way up the floors. Knowing Bakugo as well as he did was certain the device was on the 4th floor and he would be heading directly for him shortly. As they rounded a corner on the 2nd floor, Izuku heard an explosion and moved to get Mina out of the way as he barely missed getting hit in the face with one of Bakugo blasts. Just like I predicted. Mina, Toru, head on and look for the bomb. I will catch up. He tossed his visor to Mina. Okay, we're on it, Izuku. She dashed towards the stairwell and away from the fight. Well, I have you now, Deku. Bakugo snarled as he ready to jump him again. I will squash you like the bug you are, your quirkless freak. He lunged forward, drawing back for his opening blow. He was caught off guard when he missed. Izuku dodged enough for the attack to miss him and grabbed his wrist and flipped him over his shoulder and slammed him into the ground. Poor predictable Bakugo. For years you have been using the same move for years with that open right hook. Too bad you never looked at my notes or you would have improved. Izuku released 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 wrist and took off down the hall. He ran into several rooms just to quickly exit and making a break for the stairs. 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 was raging at being flipped like he was nothing. He got to his feet and ran after him blind to everything else but getting his swift vengeance upon Izuku. Everyone had watched as Izuku flipped 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 and slammed him into the floor with awe. He hadn't done anything special beside use his opponent's attack against him. They heard Izuku tell him about his predictability and referenced his notes on him. They watched with confusion of him running into several rooms before back-tracking up the stairs. "What is he doing?" Ochako asked in confusion. They knew him well enough that he was not one to run around randomly like that. She had figured he was up to something. Well, his flip was well done and it seems like he had up to something. Momo stated as she had reached a similar conclusion. She had made a notepad and pencil and began to take notes on the match. Yet Izuku is away planning something in his big brain. She had watched Raphtalia nod along with her. She hugged the girl tight. She didn't like this feeling of watching him fight 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽. I know he is good at planning and the way he dodged his attach and countered his perfectly means he is about to do thing bigger. Also he hasn't Morpher yet. Kyoko said, joining in their assessment. They were all in agreement on how smart Izuku could be. That is, when they saw movement come out of the rooms he had exited, it all made sense. Oh! Was all Momo, Ochako, Setsuna, and Kyoka could say as they smiled about what was about to go down. Izuku had reached the hallway as planned and met up with Mina. As soon as he reached her, she coated the floor and walls with a special acid like they had planned. "It's done, Izuku." "Good, great job, Mina." Izuku tapped his earpiece. "Toru, are you in position?" He was listening for 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 and was not disappointed when he heard his battle cry or the sound of his explosions telling him that he was on his way. Izuku had calculated his normal distance between blast and duration of flight times, so where they placed Mina, acid would be where he had to land. "Yes, I found him doing a monologue and have marked the door as planned." Toru had went up the back stairwell as they pretended she was with the two of them. She had made it up to the 4th floor with no difficulty. They had not set up any traps, which made it easier for her to slip in unnoticed and find the room they were looking for. "Great job, Toru. We will take care of 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 and come up and help you with Ida." He motioned for Mina to follow him to the rear. Hallway and stage just past the door. They heard a yell as he landed in her acid and heard the sound of him slamming into the wall. They peeked around the corner to see him lying face down in her acid that was super slick, but non-corrosive. They both started to laugh at his misfortune. Back in the observation room, the other students were not doing much better. They watched him run out of steam before he could avoid the acid, and as soon as his foot touched the harmless acid, he slipped and hit the wall before falling face down on the floor. They laughed at him like it was comedy gold. Shoyuta and Midnight had to admit he had planned out this fight better than they had thought, but since Nizu was his mentor, they should not have been surprised. It actually made them a bit nervous about the second coming of Nizu. Izuku watched as 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 was managed to stand up through sheer will and determination. He was radiating pure rage and let off a large explosion, blowing the acid away from him. "You are dead, Deku. You and that slimy raccoon-eyed beach." 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 launched forward and surprised Izuku when he fired a blast faster than before and launched an attack at Mina. Mina attempted to lean back, but could not completely dodge it as his explosion went off near her right shoulder. Mina fell back as her suit blew apart as she fell back. She quickly covered her exposed chest. She had felt a burning sensation at her shoulder where the explosion hit. As a reaction, she sent some more slime like acid hitting 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 in the face. Izuku moved into action and delivered a roundhouse kick to 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽's stomach and sent him backwards. He removed his jacket and tossed it back to Mina to allow her to cover herself to protect her modesty. He smiled as he saw movement around the corner and turned around to scoop her up and carried her somewhere to check her injury. Mina clutched his jacket to her chest as she carried away from the fight. She looked over his shoulder to several people stand around 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽, and they looked just like Izuku. "What the hell?" was all she managed to ask before he dashed up the stairs with her. Back in the viewing room, several people were impressed with his chivalry of giving his jacket to cover up her damaged suit. Kirishima and Tetsu both cried out how manly that was for him to do that before fist-bumping each other in mutual respect. "Oh God, there are two of them," was most of the room's shared thoughts. It was when they saw multiple copies of Izuku surrounding the blonde was when everyone that didn't know him got confused. Mineta was furious that he didn't get to see her chest beforehand and was quite vocal about it. He received furious glares at by the females in the room. He was given a detention from Shoyuta for his crude remark. Several male students moved away from him for their own safety from female fury. "Wait, I thought he was quirkless?" Itsuka asked, looked at her teacher. He was able to make some kind of clones of himself. The both class were curious about the as well looked to the teachers for the answer. Nizu leaned back in his chair. His support item allows him to access different abilities depending on the settings. Nizu knew more about what Izuku kind of different abilities he had success to. Pay attention to what happened next, students, it may be very educational. Bakugo wiped the slime from his eyes and snarled as he saw two Dekus in front of him. "What the F is this Deku?" He heard movement around him and turned his head to see two more standing behind him. "Yubisu, have you been lying to me for years?" He lunged forward using an explosion to enhance his attack. He swung his left arm to closest one. He was inches away when a capture cloth wrapped around his arm from being throwing him off course towards the wall. He barely had enough time to correct his angle to hit his back against the wall instead of his face. "How rude to ignore us like that." One Izuku chided Bakugo as he adjusted his capture cloth on his shoulders. "Well, he is just an angry Pomeranian, all bark no bite," said another Izuku holding the cloth attached to Bakugo's arm. "I feel like that is an insult to Pomeranians," said a third reading his capture cloth. "Well, I would feel sorry if he ever dates someone with all his premature detonations." The fourth smirked. He dropped in a combat stance waiting for him to react. All four of them started chuckling at him. Bakugo reacted exactly like they thought he would. Attempted to escape from the cloth, but when he couldn't he sent blast in all directions. Another cloth wrapped around his leg. When pulled he fell to one knee. He attempted to fire off a blast towards one of the cloth wielders, but his arm was knocked upwards with a kick from another. The fourth shoulder checked him into the wall, causing Bakugo to have the breath knocked out of him. One of them wrapped his free hand with the capture sloth and pulled him towards them. The last one wrapped a scarf around his last free limb and together they pulled it taut. Before Bakugo could take any of them out, they stopped him from causing any more damage by pinning him to the ground, wrapping his palms in the capture cloth to stop his explosion from affecting them. "You have been weighed," one of them said to Bakugo. "You have been measured," said another, smirking as he did so. "And you have been found wanting," said a different Izuku, looking at his watch as if he was bored. "Basically, we are say that you are unworthy of us at our best," said the last one, really driving home the insult he was giving him by giving him a condensing look. Bakugo fought hard trying to get free, but the four of them had him pinned enough he was trapped. All he could do was rage and scream out all known profanities. He started to build the sweat up in his hands, waiting for the right moment to ignite it. Back in the viewing room, almost everyone was laughing so hard they were in tears. The guys felt a little bad for a couple of those insults, but it was hysterical. Kyoka and Setsuna managed to cover Raphtalia's ears to prevent her from hearing the inappropriate insult and Bakugo profanities, but snickered just the same. The Raphtalia had complained about not hearing the joke. Momo and Ochako were having to use each other as a support from laughs so hard. Maruko was laughing the hardest, beaming with pride at his insults to the blonde menace. Lady, Ryukyu, Midnight, and Inko just face-palmed at his words as they were sure he got them from Maruko. The screen split into 4 different views. One, Bakugo brawled with the Izuku clones. The second was Tenya finishing his monologue to get into character. The third was outside the door, assuming where Toru was waiting. And the last was a room not far from Toru where Izuku had set Mina down in a chair. Izuku reached for a pouch and pulled out some first aid supplies. "Let me dress your shoulder and then we will go after Ida." He had made sure to lay out what he needed before getting to work. He sprayed her wound with a bit of disinfectant, which caused Mina to hiss slightly. Then he added a bit of topical cream for her burns before wrapping it up. "Not too tight now, is it?" he asked as he started to put away his supplies. Mina moved her arm and nodded. Nope, it's all good. Izuku, thanks. She watched as he turned away from to allow her to put on his jacket. She smiled at his chivalry. She zipped up his jacket and turned around. I'm decent now. Thank you. She waited for him to turn around. Now excuse me, but I have to ask, how the hell did you do that? She pointed to back in the direction that they came. Izuku smiled at her. Well, time is short, so here. He pulled out the SPD Morpher from his pocket. This allows me to a variety of abilities, and what I used was replication. It allows me to make up 6 clones of myself for a short duration. He watched as Mina's eyes went wide at his ability. Now let's meet up with Toru before the clones fade away or get destroyed. He told her as started to walk towards the door. Wow, you can make up to 6 clone with just that device. Well, whoever becomes your girlfriend or wife will be one lucky lady with that gadget of yours in the bedroom. Mina mused out louder than she intended, thinking, before blushing at her own statement as she watched Izuku nearly fell from missing a step. Wait, sorry. Mina hurried to follow him to head to finish the fight, her face in obvious purple as she devolved into a stuttering mess trying to apologize. Back in the viewing room, several people had a similar reaction to Mina's words. Izuku girlfriends were a blushing mess at this, all sporting heavy blushes at their classmates' words as they remembered the talk video from the night before started to make their blushes even worse. Thankfully, they still had their young friend's ears covered, so they did not have to explain that to her anytime soon. The adults were feeling a bit uncomfortable, especially his sisters and his mother, at her implications. Mineta wisely kept his mouth shut at this, knowing he may not survive the encounter from the female population in the room if he spoke his mind. Midnight was about to make a joke, but Ryukyu covered her mouth with her hand before giving her a soft glare. Lady rested her head in her hand, not wanting to think of her brother in that regards. Maruko was on the ground about to bust a gut from laughing her butt off. Kirishima rested his face in both of his hands at his friend's antics. God, Mina, we talked about saying stuff like that in public. He knew there were times she did not have a filter, and since she had hit PBRY, some of those things just made him very uncomfortable. Well, All Might started to say before clearing his throat. Villains, you have 4 minutes remaining. Even he was having a hard time not feeling uncomfortable about that comment. The room returned their focus back to the match. Izuku rounded the corner and took off his visor and gave it to Mina. Now let hurry. We stick to the plan from earlier. Mina and I will rush in and get Ida attention. You can move around the edge of the room and get the device and we win. Mina will have my visor so you don't get caught in her acid spray. Are you both ready? Toru looked at the two of them, blushing from something. She was about to ask when Mina waved her off, mouthing her, "Tell you later." Toru shrugged, but let the matter drop. Ready? They answered together. Let's go win dash. He was interrupted with an explosion that shook the building a bit. Okay, we need to move now. He knew that Bakugo would be here any minute and he was going to be beyond furious by now. With that, Izuku threw the door open and ran in with his teammates right behind him. Izuku watched as Ida tried to start his monologue, but Izuku cut him off. Sorry, in a bit of hurry. No time for villain drama. Izuku made a subtle shifted his morpher and ran towards the bomb. Ida rushed forward, aiming an engine-powered kick at his abdomen to take him out quick since he was considered the bigger threat. He wished he had a camera to take a picture of Ida's face when his leg went through him like he was a ghost. If only he had not given his visor to Mina. He had used intangibility to avoid the attack by having Ida phase through him. Mina had waited for their Ida to launch himself at Izuku like he had predicted, and when he did just that, Mina covered his landing area with the same slimy acid she had used on Bakugo. Ida had the same issue as he slid and spun right out of the room and into the wall with a heavy thud. And Ida has lost control and has spun into the wall. His race is over. Mina called out as she skated across her own acid with grace of a professional figure skater. They moved over towards the bomb with well over a minute to spare. Wahoo, that was fun guys, now time for the win. Toru said as she was just about to touch the bomb when Bakugo blew in like a missile, landing out of the slime looking like a volcano about to erupt. UBSTRD. Bakugo roared with all his might. I won. T lose to you of all people. D. He readied for his change to attack, his whole body shaking with rage. Izuku just smirked at him. But Izuku corrected him, "You already lost with your big temper tantrum just now. My teammates touched the bomb for the win." Izuku pointed over in the direction with his thumb as Mina and Toru with her gloves returned thanks to Mina having Izuku jacket had placed their hands on the bomb to end the match. "So you lost Bakugo. Deal with it." Izuku had put an emphasis on the word lost to make his point to him. Hero team win. Bakugo shook with unbridled fury at this. He had lost a fight to someone he considered to be nothing but a piece of dirt on the bottom of his show. He had been top dog for years and everyone knew it. He has on the way to being the future #1 hero. He was not about to take this lying down. He watched as Deku turned his back on him to celebrate with his teammates. Deku had just brushed him aside like he nothing. Like he was the Deku. His fragile self-control had snapped at this flagrant personal insult Deku had just shown him. He raised his gauntlet up and put a finger on the pin. His rage was all-consuming. He didn't even care that those extras were behind his target. He heard voice screaming at his, but he just tuned them out. "I don't lose to some like you, Deku." Without another moment of hesitation, he pulled the pin. The viewing room exploded with activity as people reacted to Bakugo going over the edge as he raised his gauntlet to pull the pin. All Might, Miruko, Ryukyu and Shoyuta ran for the door were gone the moment he touched the pin. Midnight took the headset and started screaming at him to stand down. The match was over, but he was not responding. Any lady moved to support Inko as she went pale in fright as Bakugo actions for losing. Kyoka and Setsuna turned Raphtalia away from the screen and held her close as they watched the pin be pulled. Momo and Ochako covered their mouths to suppress their screams. The rest of the room had a horrified or shocked look on their face at the reactions of the blonde losing a match. Only one person in the room didn't seem upset at this was Monoma, who just smirked with delight as the blonde pointed his gauntlet. Power Rangers Ninja Storm OST. Several things happened is rapid succession. Izuku changed his morpher and morphed. Thunderstorm, Ranger form. Power of Thunder. He morphed into the Navy Thunder Ranger. He grabbed his thunder staff and changed it into the thunder shield and moved in front of his teammates. "You want harm my friends?" he screamed as the explosion hit his thunder shield. Mina and Toru saw the massive explosion go off and felt the heat and air rushing towards them. They were frozen in fear as they watched Izuku change in a flash of blue and stand in front of them as the explosion hit some kind of shield. They were forced to close their eyes from the light and debris that was blown their way. When they opened their eyes, they noticed the explosion had been deflected around them as on both sides the floor was black from the explosion. Their ears were ringing a bit from the explosion. They looked to see Izuku had not moved an inch as smoke rose from his gloves. He looked unharmed. The wall behind them had two large holes where the explosion had been redirected away from them. Izuku shifted the shield back into its staff form. He looked over his shoulder. "Are you two okay?" he asked them in a calm tone, and concern could also be heard in his voice. "Why, I'm not hurt," Toru said, her voice shaky from almost being hit by the explosion. She looked over to see Mina looking terrified, but unhurt. "I don't think Mina is hurt either, just scared at the moment." Toru placed a hand on Mina's shoulder and she flinched slightly before snapping out of it and looking at her surroundings. "It's okay, Mina. Because I am here," Izuku said in soothing tone. "I will keep you both safe until the teachers arrive. Just stay behind me." Izuku tuned back and took a step towards Bakugo, resting his staff on his shoulder. Mina and Toru had to admit he looked every bit the hero standing in front of him. It reminded them of valiant heroes in an anime that saves people just in the nick of time. "Now Bakugo, have you lost what little sense you have left?" Izuku's tone became harsh as Bakugo looked stunned that Izuku had been unharmed from his attack. "I have put up with a lot things from you in the past 10 years, but this takes the cake." Izuku summoned the Navy Antler to his free hand. "I have put up with getting beating up from you and your gang of no-name thugs. Getting used as a punching bag with your quirk for you, hero, training. Years of emotional abuse for being curicless. I even put up with you telling me to take swan dive off the roof and hope for a quirk in the next life." Izuku put his thunder staff away and suched the Navy Antler to his right hand. "I will not let you harm anyone that I call my friend. Now I will give you once chance, stand down and surrender until the teachers arrive to deal with you. His tone left no room for debate with his former friend. Bakugo had been dumbfounded to see Deku was unharmed from his most powerful attack. He just deflected like it was nothing to him. He snapped out of his stupor when he heard him berate him like he was in the wrong here. Like he was a child being scolded for misbehaving. F you Deku. He launched himself forward, preparing to get close and pull his last pin on his gauntlet. Deku let out a sigh as he jumped forward and grabbing him by Bakugo's left wrist with his free hand, pointing it up towards the ceiling away from himself and his teammates. He grasped Bakugo's remaining gauntlet with the navy antler, using just enough pressure for it to shatter the gauntlet with the pin to pieces. The stored-up sweat splashed on the floor. Okay, that is just gross. Izuku joked as he moved away from the puddle of explosive sweat. Izuku tossed Bakugo back away, preventing him from igniting the puddle of sweat. Izuku 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 again. Ninja Storm, Ranger Form. Power of Water. Izuku 𝐒𝐮 in the Blue Ninja Ranger. He summoned as large amount of water and drenched his Bakugo to dilute his sweat. Izuku 𝐒𝐮 back to his Navy Thunder Ranger form and summoned his navy antlers back to his hand. No more massive explosions for you. Izuku watched Bakugo struggle to shake the water off and make an explosion. Bakugo was not going down without a fight. He kept trying to make explosions with his free hand, but he wasn't able to make anything bigger than a spark. He lunged forward, trying to grab at Izuku to try and grapple him. Izuku caught his by the wrist, had held him at an arm's length. Just stop, this has gone on long enough. Izuku told him as he started to thrash around trying to break free of his grip. Izuku stopped that by opening his navy antler and closed it around Bakugo's waist, preventing him from moving around too much. Now Bakugo, you are a smart boy. What comes after thunder? Go to hell. 𝐒𝐵𝐴. Bakugo screamed, still trying to break free, barely missing Deku's stupid bug helmet with his free hand. He was not beaten as long as he could keep fighting. He was not going to lose after coming this far with showing the world he going to top the chart. He was going to kill him as soon as he got loose. Wrong. The answer is lightning. Izuku channeled just enough lightning that along with the water was enough to cause the blonde's body seized and went limp as he passed out. Izuku released the antler's grip and lowered him to the ground. Why do you have to be so stubborn, Bakugo? Izuku asked as he turned back to check on Mina and Toru. As he got close to them, he powered down and knelt them in front of them. Hey, are sure you girls okay? He asked them, eyes full of concern. They just stared at him, blinking. He assumed since he couldn't see Toru's face at the moment. Do I need to get a nurse for you guys or dash? Mina lunged forward and arms around his chest, hugging him tight as buried her face in the crook of his neck to cry. He felt Toru do the same on his opposite shoulder as they thanked him for saving them. It's okay, you are safe now. Patted them both on their heads. He let out a tired sigh as he comforted his classmates. Hopefully I didn't worry everybody too much. Izuku, though grateful that the match was finally over. Now he just wanted to relax and see his girlfriends. Izuku. Yes, Mina. Are we really your friends? Mina asked, still holding him tight. You told that prick that you won't let him hurt his friends. Izuku nodded. Yes. I consider both of you my friends. Izuku hugged them both. I just glad I made it in time. I'm sorry. Izuku knew friends almost got hurt because a decade-old grudge with Bakugo came to a flashpoint. Why are you apologizing? Toru asked Shift so she could look him at his face. You saved the two of us and knocked out the rabid Pomeranian. Well, he almost hurt you too because because he lost a match and got set off. Toru interrupted him. Yeah, he got bent out of shape after we had already won. It's not your fault. Mina confirmed as gently slapped his shoulder. You are not responsible for his actions. Yes. Izuku smiled. Thank you. Izuku was relaxed a bit as he knew they didn't blame him for how their exercise had ended. Back in on the viewing room, the room broke out into cheers as Izuku took down Bakugo in Kirishima and Tetsu called him beyond manly. Many were horrified to hear everything he went through with the Bakugo, and many were wondering why he was in the hero course at all. This caused a various discussion to form during the class. While most of the classes had been talking about the final showdown, Monoma had been recording it with his phone and sent a copy of the video to his father and uncle. He sent a text message along with it, a possible ally to take down the freak. He slid his phone back into his pocket, smiling as he saw no one had seen him do a thing. He was waiting for what to do next for their plans to advance their family fortunes. Unbeknownst to Monoma, though, 𝐻𝐿 has seen the whole thing and smiled with glee as was ready to knock the Monoma family down a few pegs with his new plan. Inko had breathed easier when she saw him take down his childhood bully. It had been hard for her to watch them fight it out like this, as she remembered a simpler time when they used to play together. She was just grateful that her son was unharmed. She was angry at 𝐒𝐿𝐴 for how he had treated her son, but she was also good friends with his mother. It gave her mixed emotions. Midnight had let out a deep sigh at what had happened here. This would result in 𝐒𝐿𝐴 expulsion for using a dangerous item and using after the match had ended. It could have resulted in the serious injuries of 3 students. She was proud of her brother for standing up to him and saving the day. That boy would be an amazing hero, and his actions today showed that is spades. She did not feel sorry for 𝐒𝐿𝐴 having to stand in front of 𝐻𝐿 for his actions here today. And the lady was cheering for him loudly. 𝐻𝐿𝐴, take you little blonde bomber. She looked to see Raphtalia's ears were not being covered anymore. That just proves he deserves to be here. She was beaming with pride and had made sure to fill out her internship form when she came here today. She would get him as her intern, with planning this far ahead of her sisters. The girls let out a sigh of relief as they watched Izuku take charge and change into 2 different ranger forms to make sure their rabid classmates stayed down. They all shared a look of pride as they watched him be great hero and protect his classmates from that massive explosion. Raphtalia's got to see Izuku take down the blonde in a somewhat flashy way. She had been worried when the explosion went off that her papa was going to get hurt, but then with a flash of blue and he was safe. She loved everything to do with the Power Rangers and was wanting a new dolls for both of the Blue Rangers he used today. Yeah. Papa won. Papa won. The young girl exclaimed with excitement. Then she remembered she was in public and that was supposed to be a secret. Oops. She muttered before curling into Setsuna in embarrassment. As the 4 girls froze at her words and knew this was going to get loud. Papa! Most of the room exclaimed in shock and confusion at the young girl's statements. Several students looked like they were about to rush the poor girl wanting answers, but Momo and Ochako stood up and glared hard enough they decided against it. Kyoka and Setsuna moved close to protect her as well, along with glaring at the group as well. Any further attempts or thoughts about hounding the young girl questions died in that moment at 4 angry protective glares. Kirishima, Tetsu, Itsuka, and Ibra moved over to help them as well by creating a buffer. Fumikage and Hitoshi followed suit by taking a protective stance as well. This settled them down slightly, but it had not stopped the chatter in the classroom. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 leaned back into his chair, enjoying all the chaos of the students, and watched as more was brewing from the young girl's innocent words. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 loved chaos like this since it was easy to control, and even more so when it came to creating it with minimal effort. He has just received a message from 𝐿𝐴 that May was on her way after watching the match via remote access, looking to break that blonde BSTRD's legs with a sledgehammer. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 smirked at the message and waited for her arrival to amplify the chaos a little more. May had been working at her lab station on a new baby that she had thought of after Izuku had kissed her for making his suit. She had been happily adjusting the gears on it when Deku got her attention. May you have received a message from Ochako that Izuku is going to be in the first group at the battle training for their afternoon class. Deku stated from her fox body as she moved closer to a monitor near her bench. Oh cool. Can you patch the audio and visual feeds into the monitor so I can watch him? May asked, testing the gear for tightness, and had to make a few more adjustments. She had come up with a way for him to launch smoke bombs from his wrist as a way to distract or escape from someone. Affirmative, May. Deku replied as she ejected a connector from her tail and connected to the monitor. It took a few moments, but then it showed Izuku on the screen planning with his 2 teammates. A pink girl and a pair of shoes and floating gloves. Who are his teammates? May asked as she set down the device she was working on and focused her attention on his teammates since she was a little curious about who was with her Zuzu. Mina Ishido, Quirk Acid, and Toru Hagakure, Quirk invisibility. Both are members of 1A, Deku stated in a matter-of-fact tone. It seems that he is facing Tenya Ida, Quirk engines and Katsuki Bakugo, Quirk explosion. Mei dropped the tool that she had been holding. Wait, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 is face that blonde but in battle training. Mei was not happy about it one bit. She knew enough about that Bakugo that she had wanted to break his kneecaps with a wrench, but 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 had persuaded her not to do that. She gave her full attention to the screen in front of her. That is affirmative, Mei. Deku confirmed for her. Mei had watched at the match started and had noticed that the invisible girl had taken off her shoes and handed her gloves over to 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 since he had pockets. Then Mei had lost track of her. She watched as they made their way up the stairs and Mei clenched her fist as she watched the BA come close to hitting him. She watched with glee as her 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 flipped him and slammed him into the ground. She had been confused as what he was unto until she saw several copies of himself follow behind the blonde bomber. She watched in fascination as Izuku and the pink girl Mina set up the hallway with type of acid on the floor and walls. Mei had been watching with interest as it looked planned. After a few minutes the blonde bomber came flying in right up until his foot hit the acids and he slipped and crashed into the wall before falling face first in the slick acid. Mei couldn't help but laugh at what happened. She enjoyed watching him get what was coming to him after all these years. She watched in surprise when he attacked Mina and injured her along with partially destroyed her suit top. She also gave him a parting gift of that slick slime to his face. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 tossed her his jacket to be a gentleman. Mei made some notes to redesign and improve Mina's suit and maybe make something for the invisible girl. She made a few notes as she watched 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 run with Mina up a flight of stairs. Mei watched at the 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 clones put the smack down on Bakugo and enjoyed all the insults 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 was saying to him. Mei's face was burning heavily with a blush at what Mina had insulated about with Izuku and clones in the bedroom. She blamed her mother for giving her the talk again just because she was dating 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴. She had to reach over and turned her personal fan to cool herself off. She smiled as she watched Izuku take 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to rush him and used an SPD ability to his advantage. She snickered at Mina's joke and hoped she would get to make some more friends soon. She grinned when she heard it. They won. She cheered loudly. All her enjoyment left when she saw that BSTRD raise his gauntlet at 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴! Mei screamed at the monitor as that BSD pulled the pin on his gauntlet. Mei's hands went to her mouth in horror at how far this guy going over one lost battle. She felt relief when she watched him morph into a new ranger and endure the explosion. Oh, you get him, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴! Mei cheered in excitement. She watched her boyfriend crush his opponent's gauntlet with ease. She watched him switch to another ranger just to drench his opponent to remove his explosive abilities before switching back. She was beaming with pride when he finally took him with a shocking ending. She was proud of her own pun there. She turned around to see most of the support students and teacher behind her with looks of amazement at watching the match. Hey guys, what's up? Mei asked at all the people around her. What's up? That green hair kid just survived an explosion from that explosion kid's gauntlets. How is that possible? One of the students asked incredulously. Wait, isn't that the kid from those news reports? He faced the slime guy, worked with mt-lady on the tower rescue, and he faced that wanted criminal, right? A girl from the class asked. Oh, that's right. Another person chimed in. I am so sending him an offer to be his support person. A different classmate chimed in. What? No way. Yeah, let us have a chance. Mei had had enough of their bickering and let out a loud and ear-pierce whistle that silenced everyone. First of his name is Izuku Midoryia. Yes, that was him in his ranger suits. No, you can't send him any offers because I am already his personal support person. Mei showed the paperwork on her desk with his name and signature on it. I also have the signature for Ochako Uraraka, Setsuna Tokichi, Kyokajiru, and Momo Yaoyorozu for their suits and equipment. Mei grit her teeth as her classmates complained loudly that she had too many students as her clients and that she should share some of them with her classmates. All right, enough. Power Loader called out over the voice of the students. Mei has the proper paperwork approved by myself, and she will be in charge of those students until the graduate or they decide to have a change support techs. Life is not fair and you should not expect the support course to be any different. The better your equipment is made, the more people will want your equipment. He looked at all of his students. I suggest you all start putting your best efforts in your items or risk getting left behind your other classmates. 𝐻𝗠𝗨 watched as the students went back to their station grumbling about the teacher's pet as they working on their support items. You okay? Mei let out a sigh as she leaned back against her. Yeah, nothing new I have to deal with. Mei looked over at the screen and decided to go pay a visit to Zuzu and the others. Now if you will excuse me, I need to go check on my client and make sure his gear is working properly. She walked over and placed her paperwork in her desk and locked it. She picked up Deku and started to walk towards the door before making a stop at the tool closet and grabbed a 20-pound sledgehammer with ease. Mei, what are you doing with that sledgehammer? 𝐻𝗠𝗨 asked, afraid of what his student's answer was going to be. Oh, nothing serious. Mei said, looked at him with a straight face. Just going break that blonde bastard's legs with a sledgehammer for trying to hurt Zuzu. With that she dashed out of the room at a quick pace as if she was not planning to do anything wrong. Oh hell! 𝐻𝗠𝗨 said before sending his boss a text message. He wanted to run after her, but he was not about to leave a bunch of students unattended with dangerous equipment and untested equipment.